championship has been captured by the Indiana Pacers.
Alex Pillow wins the 109th Indianapolis 500.
This is the Fan Morning Show with KB, JB, and Jeff.
It's my first day at Colts camp today. Good morning, everyone. Kevin Bowen, James Boyd, Jeff Rickard, back from traveling the world because I had to come back and see my boys and get ready for football season and all those kinds of things. How are we doing so far this week?
How are you?
I'm okay. So I'll probably crash later on tonight. I got back about 10 o'clock last night.
Well, let's just make it to 10:01
pushing it.
a.m. today. I don't know how many people that'd be walking off the old red eye at whatever time you did and walk up to Grand Park, but nonetheless.
Nah, I'm excited to be here, excited to see you guys. I've been reading about everything throughout that's the great part about the worldwide internet. They call it the worldwide internet. You can read about stuff half a planet away, and that's what I've been doing. And sounds like it's been a pretty non-eventful camp, which is exactly what you're looking for in a lot of ways, right, Kevin?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, a little news item last night. We'll certainly hit on here throughout the show with Bernard Ryman signing that extension, and you do join us. Maybe you're the good luck charm. Maybe they heard you were coming back, and the quarterbacks decided to be competent. So that is what happened yesterday. And, James and I talked about it on Monday's show. I do think things just naturally ramp up this week with the full pads on. Sounds like full pads again today. Sounds like full pads Thursday night. So evaluation periods start to get a little bit more under the microscope. And, yeah, I thought yesterday – really, for the first time all camp, it looked like a legit quality quarterback competition. Now the question becomes, was that the anomaly?
So, James, does that include the Shane Steichen portion of the program playing quarterback or not?
I mean, he did throw an interception. So, when he did throw that ball the other day, Kevin, I was thinking to myself, who the heck threw that? Because I couldn't see who threw it. And I was about to say, man, whoever threw that has certainly lost some ground in the quarterback competition. So we'll see how things go today. I believe it's, the longest practice so far, Kevin, 90 minutes. And so a lot more to evaluate today. It should be a good one. And we'll have Coach on later, Coach Rick Venturi. Analyst for the Colts as well. I'm sure he'll have some thoughts that he always is willing to share, whether he's on air or off air.
Yeah, and so much going on. Obviously, we've had a couple of practices. You said now we'll see if we get 2 days in a row of full pads. Is there anything where you say to yourself, man, this guy's really popping? This guy looks good so far?
Yeah, I don't know if I'm there by any means. We're just approaching the midway point of camp. I mean, there's been some guys that, you can say, all right, maybe instead of pencil, you're writing them in pen in the old depth chart. But again, I think, we made the school analogy quite often yesterday. You're kind of closer to midterms now, whereas last week maybe a little bit more a welcome week. First day in full pads. Again, I don't want to overreact. I actually thought the O-line was probably the better unit. If you want to compare the O-line to the D-line, anytime your quarterbacks go – whatever they did,
6
10
of
11,
and then 4 or 5 for Daniel Jones.
Yeah, so if you combine it 10 of 11 and the only incompletion is a drop, your O-line's doing something right. So, first day in full pads, I thought that group did a nice job. Now, again, the question becomes, does that continue? Can you string these days together? And, boy, today's going to be a grind. I mean, today's going to be arguably the hottest day of camp. And like James said, it's a 90-minute session. It's full pads. So these are for 2025 NFL camp, this is about as dog day as it's going to get.
Well, I'm looking forward to seeing it and seeing how things are going as far as all the things that have been going on. I always talk about the fact that Indianapolis is, in a lot of ways, the sports capital of the world. We had the WNBA All-Star Game, just got done with the Brickyard, and now it's Colts camp, and we got all kinds of things going on. This summer, if you date back to the run to the finals and everything else, Kevin, can you remember an entire summer it was just bam, 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 bam?
Yeah, probably not. I mean, the WNBA All-Star Game obviously shrunk that calendar as well. Yeah, I mean, the Pacers played a month ago in a week was Game 7. So yeah, it's been one of those where usually you're like, all right, you get about a month and a half of the non-newsy item summer shows, and we definitely did not have that at all. So it's been a fun time. How was France?
France was spectacular. This past Sunday, I was actually on the Montmartre, which is where they, for the first time, usually they do like 6 laps up and down the Champs-Élysées to finish the race. They did that, but they incorporated. There's this big, huge hill where a church sits on top of it, the Sacré-Cœur. 500,000 people, about a 2 or 3 kilometer circle going up and then back down that hill. About 500,000 people. And we got there, my brother and I got there about 4 hours before the race got there just to get a decent seat. And that place was rocking already, singing songs, banging on the sides. you say this, I'll say that from one side of the big party. No alcohol involved whatsoever over there. You'll be happy to know there. Right? But no, it was just a good time. It's fun to go to different sporting events and watch how things are going there. But I found myself over the last 4 or 5 days, just like a magnet, back to it, maybe the moth to the flame, checking out what's going on at this training camp. I'll see what Kevin wrote today, see what James wrote today. You can't get away from it. It's great stuff.
I am nervous. Did you forget to check the weather? Because I saw you rocking pants today, and I'm a little nervous about you holding up in this heat.
I actually have to go back into the office today because I've been gone for a couple weeks. So as soon as we get done, I got to go do some real work. I may have to go back home and change clothes the way things are going now because it is hot and humid out here
and
today.
Clothes have been questionable for Mark Dykton. So when you go back in the studio, make sure you do check on him.
I worry about Mark because you're sitting back there all by yourself in that studio with no windows, and I am a little frightened about what I might walk in on.
Yeah, you should be.
I mean, I've barricaded the door. I'm not leaving. You guys are staying out in camp till October because I've had no pants on, and I've quite enjoyed myself.
What is it about this show, JB? You walked in late on this thing. Kevin never wears a shirt. Mark's now not wearing pants. What are we getting ourselves into here?
It's Indiana radio. I'll take it.
How's your summer been, man? Good?
It's been good. A little busier last night with the Bernard Ryman extension coming in at about, I want to say 9 o'clock last night. We got news on that, but pretty easy to write about and explain because everyone, I believe, on this show and elsewhere was saying it was a no-brainer. And it was just funny that Bernard Ryman came on Query and Company, 4 or 5 days ago at this point, and was basically stating his case for why he should get paid. And so I think that maybe Jake Query should get a little bonus or something, get a little off the top because
Jake gets the love.
He was pretty funny when Bernard Ryman.
1% goes to Jake Query, which is a lot of money. In
1%. I mean, Kevin mentioned
lunch is on Jake now.
Right after Bernard Ryman mentioned that maybe the Colts don't see the value the same way we do, and he's like, wait a second, your position is very valuable, and so closed mouths don't get fed, and obviously right after that they got it smoothed out.
Yeah, and it's seen anything around the rest of the league as far as division news, notes, anything like that, Kevin, that has raised your eyebrows and something that could impact the Colts one way or another down the road?
We brought up on yesterday's show, James, that Rashawn Slater deal with the Chargers. Like, is that one of the top market deals you see at a position and that now starts to slot guys in at left tackle? Well, lo and behold, Bernard Ryman then inks a new deal, 10 hours later. So, again, that one has already played out. But, there is one question I have on the Ryman deal that I don't know if we know the answer of, but it's a thought I had when I saw that news item last night. Locally, I think people are kind of curious what's going to happen with Terry McLaurin in Washington. He's a 30-year-old wideout. That age at that position, I understand where Washington is maybe coming from in that realm of like, okay, how much do you give? Right now through camp, I don't want to overreact to a handful of days, but Michael Pittman Jr. has not had maybe the type of camp that we're used to from him. So, you get into those wideouts and you're talking third contracts with them and their ages, around the league. I think it's going to matter. It's not going to matter to the Colts this offseason, but with Alec Pierce in a contract year and Michael Pittman Jr. in a pseudo-contract year, that is something that, maybe just to keep on the back burner for the Colts down the road.
I'm Bernard Ryman. I'll be back.
He is back. Don't have to worry about that right now. And so, as I said a moment ago, guys, the one thing that anybody wants out of their camp, they want guys to play well and show their improvement and get ready for the season, but no major negative news. And that's what you want in camp because you don't want injuries. You don't want some kind of news. It's the nonsense coming out of the Raiders locker room and all kinds of stuff like that. And there's something to be said for a nice, normal, drama-free camp, isn't there?
Yeah, certainly. There's been years where, this time last year, James, Samson Ebicom, I think had already torn his Achilles. Carson Wentz and Quentin Nelson both had the foot issues early in camp one year. So, yeah, so far, the news ticker, honestly, Ryman was the news ticker, really. And, again, the quarterback battle, so far it's been a very, I think, just like, oh, boy, this is the quarterback battle. But, again, yesterday, it's very rare to watch Anthony Richardson have a practice and the ball not hit the ground in a 7-on-7 or an 11-on-11 period. Now, again, the question becomes, can he start to do that in more of and the expectations are probably not going to be that he has 0 incompletions every day, but can that turn into a little bit more of consistency here as July turns into August? So those are the questions. And again, today we'll start to get some more answers and what is expected to be another full padded practice.
And again, just looking at social media clips and little videos here and the stuff that you guys have been writing the last few days, James, it looks like their defensive additions in free agency are looking like they're supposed to look so far, right?
Yeah, they're playing really well. I think that if you throw to Javarius Ward's side, it's probably a bad idea, and it's kind of similar with Cam Bynum. They both have had good players on the ball, but I will say that, yesterday the offense did have the upper hand a bit more than the defense, and it was the first time that the offense, I think, looked like they could really hang with them because through the first 4 training camp practices last week, it was all defense.
And it should be said, too, that generally in most camps, defense is usually a few days, if not a week or two ahead of the offense. I don't know why that is, but that's been my observation over all these years at different camps in different places. The defense just seems to be ahead of the game early on. So that's good stuff. All right, we're going to be talking about what's coming up later on today for the Indianapolis Colts. They're back out here at Grand Park. They will practice in a couple of hours here. Won't be the hot part of the day, but, man, it's going to be hot and humid. So as Kevin pointed out, if you're headed out here today, you may want to employ the shorts rather than the long pants today. Coming up in just a minute, we'll talk a little bit more about the rest of the NFL and camp across the country, and we'll get you ready to go. Rick Venturi stops by a little bit later on today. It's the Fan Morning Show with KB, JB, Jeff, and Mark Dykton back in the studio. God knows what he's wearing, if anything, right now at 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Good morning, everyone. Live from Colts camp out in Westfield, Indiana. Kevin Bowen, James Boyd, Jeff Rickard. They're scheduled to get onto the field with what we think, Kevin Bowen, will be another full padded practice this morning.
Yeah, that's the thought. Obviously, we saw him yesterday. Sounds like a situational scrimmage coming up Thursday night in full pads. I know Shane Steichen's pretty giddy about that. Again, that's a 2-hour night practice, 8 to 10, fireworks after that. But yes, it should be a steamy one. And just a reminder to fans, this is your last weekday morning practice of the entire camp. After this, we shift to afternoon or night practices, a lot of weekend days upcoming here. So if the kids aren't back in school yet, this is your last chance to get them out of the house in the morning here during the week.
And James Boyd, some news on the Colts front last night with a brand new signing.
Yeah, Bernard Ryman got the bag. He signs a 4-year, $100 million extension, and when his extension kicks in next year, currently that would make him the 6th highest paid offensive tackle in the NFL. So a great payday for him, and honestly, he has earned it after being a very good left tackle for them with still some room to grow.
And Kevin Bowen, give us a little recap on the quarterback competition yesterday in full pads.
Yeah, honestly, maybe it was the more comfortable weather. I thought it was the first time both quarterbacks looked comfortable. I thought just a really steady day. And, James, I didn't think just like a day of dink and dunk and the completion percentage looked skewed via that way. I thought both of them, Richardson and Jones, both had some second-level throws that were quite impressive. So easily the best day of camp for me when you combine the both. I'd argue that was Anthony Richardson's best practice I've seen in 3 years here at Grand Park. His 7-on-7 session I thought was really clean, which is not something typical for him at all. So, yeah, I thought a really smooth day from the quarterbacks. And, boy, every time I say that, I feel like some of my body's like hitching. Like I shouldn't, I shouldn't say that out loud, but I mean it, in all honesty.
Anybody that we can expect taking a day off, a Veterans Day off or anything like that today?
With that, I always just wait and see. You know, it's hard to predict those things. I do expect Zaire Franklin at some point to get back out here pretty soon. Shane Steichen sound pretty optimistic about that. Now, obviously, getting back out there and getting into full team work is totally different. But at least getting him out there in some individual drills will probably be a positive sign for this week. We'll have to wait and see. But honestly, I'm kind of going back to Kevin's point. A lot of what I'll focus on today is just can you build on what you displayed yesterday, because that has been the knock on Anthony Richardson and honestly Daniel Jones as well, is like you have the good game and then you have the bad game right after, and it's hard to keep that sort of, you know, midline or that just that equilibrium. So excited to see where both quarterbacks grow. And honestly, what's crazy about it, Kevin, is I thought both quarterbacks had their worst days Saturday in the red zone work, and they had both quarterbacks had their best days yesterday. And to me, it's not even like debatable that the quarterback play is still pretty even. I would be sitting here lying if I told you one was ahead of the other, because if I was waiting yesterday for one quarterback to kind of drop off, but both of them brought it.
All right, Indiana Fever still playing without Caitlin Clark, out with that groin injury. They're on a 2-game winning streak. They return to the floor tomorrow night at home against the Phoenix Mercury. And I guess we're just waiting week to week on updates again on Caitlin Clark, because they seem to be pretty shy about coming forward with any kind of information there.
Yeah, it's smart to sit her down, honestly. I think Kevin was early on, probably earlier than anybody on the show, when it comes to limiting her action and perhaps sitting her down until August, which is only a few days away. But even then, just try to get her healthy for that stretch run at the end of the season. And honestly, credit to Kelsey Mitchell and others for stepping up here and stacking a couple of wins in her absence.
Is that a little Dewana Bonner tribute video tomorrow night?
No chance. She's getting booed for sure.
Just show her walking out the door, or what do you do there? That's how that goes.
She's absolutely getting booed.
Mark,
tomorrow.
you have some Rick Carlisle audio that maybe we could play for Dewana Bonner's tenure here with the Indiana Fever as the Mercury are in town. One of the better teams in the league. First time the Fever have seen them this season, though. That a lone home game here over the next couple of weeks for the Fever. So, yes, Dewana Bonner.
Time to, get the out of there.
That's how it works.
I was thinking more Tristan Thompson, but that one applies actually really well. The great thing about Rick Carlisle, he gives us a variety.
He does.
No question. Some sad news to pass along, too. Ryan Sandberg, the amazing second baseman for the Chicago Cubs, did most of his work in the 80s, was just fantastic to watch. Started to redefine, I think, the way that second basemen were viewed and the way that they played the game. Really started to bring power to that position, where before it had been kind of like you're a slap hitter, you're a good contact hitter, good average, move runners around. He brought the whole ball of wax. He, after an on and off battle against cancer for many, many years, passed away yesterday, and that was tough to watch.
Yeah, Mark, I'll certainly let you chime in on that. When I think of When I think of the Cubs, frankly, I just like Sandberg's the first image for me. And I remember, when I was sick when I was younger and couldn't go to school. Maybe I wasn't totally sick, but I would go over to my grandma's house, and she was a huge Cubs fan. So we would WGN it up, pretty much every time. And watching Sandberg, honestly, he's one of the first athletes I really remember watching, and kind of epitomized those Cubs teams. And the '84 run obviously was the run with him, but by all accounts, just exactly what you would want to emulate from a baseball player. And rest in peace to Rhino.
Yeah, that news was not fun to hear yesterday. And then, just multiple battles with cancer. And every time you get in remission, you were excited. And you're like, okay, good job. Keep fighting. And then you'd hear it came back. And then this last bout was, I guess, more aggressive than the last. And just disappointing to see because obviously, sucks as a Cubs fan. You never heard a bad word mentioned about Ryan Sandberg. But, great human being. And sad to see him go at such a young age. He's only 65. Still had a lot of life left, unfortunately.
It's tough to see and tough to talk about.
When you see the resume, I'm like, man, this dude could play. You always know it. You know it growing up as well. Obviously being from the Chicago area myself, you do know of Sandberg. But at the same time, I'm looking at his resume, like 9 Gold Gloves. Yeah, I think that's a Hall of Fame career.
Well, as a guy who was going to college in the 80s and a huge sports fan, WGN was the superstation. You could get that anywhere in the country. And so the two teams you could watch almost all the time around the country were the Braves on TBS, and you could watch WGN and the Cubs. So got to see the Cubs play almost every single day. And it was just – that was a fun team to watch. It was an incredible team to watch. And certainly hate to see Ryan Sandberg gone at the age of 65. All right, we're live at Colts training camp. We'll have more on that coming up for you in just a moment and give you an expectation on what to see, how things are going so far, position battles, along with James Boyd and Kevin Bowen, who cover the team on a full-time basis. I'm Jeff Rickard, back happily in the United States. It's always good to be home, and we'll talk about it all next on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
listening to the Fan Morning Show on Sports Radio 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
I'm not going to lie, guys. I woke up this morning, and I don't know where it came from, but on the kitchen table, my wife must have brought it back. There's a nice croissant.
Look at that.
That she brought back from France yesterday. So
man,
we had that going on,
she
too,
hit
man.
Dunkin' Donuts on the way back. This dude was sleeping, and she just put it out there.
Oh, she was with us. All four of us. It was a lot of fun. So, yes, back from a nice little summer trip overseas, trip of a lifetime we've been looking forward to for a while. Had a really good time, but I couldn't stop reading you guys. Kevin, you at 1075thefan.com and James at The Athletic, and trying to keep up with everything that was going on with Colts. And like I said, I think the biggest takeaway I have so far is no major bad stories to talk about, no distractions, no injuries, knock on wood, all that kind of stuff. And the typical, even going through the 7-on-7s, it sounds like A.D. Mitchell has had kind of an up-and-down camp so far. It sounds like both of you agree that Alec Pierce has been pretty steady from a wide receiver position. But then yesterday, sounds like both quarterbacks really stepped up and looked like NFL quarterbacks, Kevin.
Yeah, and boy, I had not said that, through the first
I was going to say the bar was low.
5 days of camp. Yeah, I mean,
take
the bar,
what you can get now, don't you?
The bar, I think in, recent days, it's like, well, that's their best day of camp so far. I would just call yesterday a good NFL quarterback training camp practice, period.
That's a fair assessment.
I'm not trying to go with the bar of Daniel Jones or the bar of Anthony Richardson because, that's the most attractive Bowen at the old family reunion. So, legit.
That's you, though, right?
Legit. No, shout out to Ryan Bowen.
Okay.
Yesterday was a legit, nice, competent quarterback play. And James, I don't even remember any risky turnover throws. I just remember good on-target balls. It's not like their pass catchers had to bail them out a bunch. Yeah. I thought the 7-on-7 period, I know Tyler Warren had a couple of drops, guys making really good plays on the ball, jarring it loose from Tyler Warren, which we're not used to seeing that so far. By the way, Tyler Warren's scheduled to join us coming up tomorrow on the show. But outside of that, again, it's just a smooth quarterback operation, and I have not said that for quite a while.
Well, you got to love that. You got to love the fact that he didn't give any of his young wide receivers anything to grumble about. James, I think you were writing about it over the weekend where A.D. Mitchell was getting a little frustrated about the placement of the football, right?
Yeah, and he has no right to feel or really voice that sort of opinion. I thought he had actually bounced back yesterday with a much better practice. He beat Travarius Ward a couple times in one-on-one drills, which is to say that he has the talent to obviously be successful. Is just, can you put it all together? But, yeah, that was a couple days ago, and I was thinking, no, you're the last guy that can really be saying those things because you're dropping passes when they do put the ball right in your hands. But bounced back yesterday, and I thought, Kevin, to your point about the quarterback play, they threw some guys open, which we really hadn't seen throughout camp. I mean, even when they had completed passes, it was like, okay, well, that's your obvious read. But a few of those throws were, I don't want to say risky, but they were pro throws. They were, okay, this is what we need to do to keep the chains moving, to flip the field. Like throws in my mind that would stick out when you look back on an actual NFL game. And so I can think of the one down the sideline to Michael Pittman Jr. from Anthony Richardson. I thought that was a very good throw right between the cornerback and the safety. And then for Daniel Jones, he had one where got some pressure in his face, stepped up, and ripped one down the seam to Will Mallory, who also was having, I think, a pretty good camp so far.
Yeah, Richardson hit him, Mallory, in a 7-on-7, kind of a lofted ball as well. Yeah, fit some balls into windows and zones that, again, I don't think has been a given. I felt like we saw a little bit more zone from Anarumo yesterday, so did that kind of play into some of the success? And, again, now it's all about stringing it together because, as James very rightfully pointed out, this is on the heels of those two having probably their worst day of camp on Saturday. And I'd go back to Friday, and that was Richardson's best day at that point. So
but that was also a different best day, to your point, right? Like, I thought that was a best day for what we've seen from Anthony Richardson day.
Right.
Because I didn't leave that practice thinking, oh, my gosh, he lit it up. He had a great day. I was like, well, you know what? He didn't look awful, which was a step in the right direction.
You mentioned Mitchell. To me yesterday, A.D. Mitchell, it's why some of these Colts staff members probably need to dial up We Grow Hair Indy. It just adds to the maddening frustration with him. I don't know how many NFL training camps you would walk into and a wideout that has had, 4-ish, 5 drops through the first 4 days of camp comes out in a one-on-one drill and absolutely cooks the number one corner on the team. I mean, we're talking about the 4th wide on the depth chart, and he did it on back-to-back reps in 2 very different routes. One on a comeback route and then kind of just a stutter and go. I think the Colts actually tweeted the video of that one out where Mitchell just flew by him for the touchdown in the one-on-one rep. And, again.
So do you think Travarius Ward, goes and finds a social media admin and they're like, all right, hold on, I was doing XYZ a few days ago and I couldn't get any love on social media? How do you think players feel about that, Kevin? Because I'm always like, dang.
Hopefully they don't watch it.
Well, we'll play the JT Tuimoloau interview coming up here in a little bit, and you want to talk about a dude that is going to be cocky about one thing but not a different thing. That'll be kind of the tease on it. James Boyd was not too happy about the high road he was taking in one realm, but then when it came time to talk about something else, he was not taking any high road. He was taking the lowest of low roads. But, again, to get back to Mitchell, it's what makes it so damn maddening with him. It's like, wow, he has the talent to torch the best dude in camp so far and an all-pro at a point in time where Mitchell's been one of the least reliable guys on the team. So it just he's one you shake your head at. He's one that Reggie Wayne's going to have to earn the big bucks in terms of trying to get him to be more consistent, more reliable, all of that. And, again, we should mention Alec Pierce was out yesterday. A heavy blister on the foot for him, which sounds horrific. But he was out here watching practice, so sounds like his return shouldn't be too long. But that's why A.D. Mitchell got, I thought, some important reps yesterday.
Well, you go back to A.D. Mitchell, and you had written about it, Kevin, and it is the maddening thing. There are glimpses, and you say, man, this guy could really be good. And you talk about the fact that he's torching guys that have been all pros in the past, right? And then he's dropping easy footballs, and he's getting frustrated with the quarterback, and he's doing things like that. Is this just a matter of him becoming more comfortable in the National Football League with everything that goes on around it? Is it a concentration thing? Or is this just what we're going to get, and that's just who he is as a football player?
Well, that's who he was at Texas. I mean, James and I touched on this, I guess it would have been last week. One of the more crazily impressive stats about A.D. Mitchell in college is he played in 5 college football playoff games and scored a touchdown in all 5 of them. You do not see that very often. Yet in those games, he only had 3 other catches in the games. So it was like, feast or famine. And that's the question. Okay, why is this dude dropping to the 10th, 11th wideout, in the 2023 draft or 2024 draft? Well, I think some of that inconsistency and some of the can he be a more reliable, down in, down out wideout is a legit question. And, through a year and one training camp here, we've seen that. You've seen flashes of him getting open, but you've also seen some rather egregious mistakes. And so far in camp, that's been what we've seen so far.
When you take a look at the overall picture and you look at how last year went and the stumbles down the stretch and putting yourself in position, and it's just the up and down nature of the whole thing. With the free agents they've added on defense and some of the things they've done, and Tyler Warren appears to be everything that's advertised, and they've made a move yesterday to solidify the offensive line after losing a couple of guys in the offseason. Like today as we sit here, Kevin, how comfortable do you feel about the Colts, and does it once again just all come back to what kind of play they get behind center?
Well, it's obviously a huge part of it, but again, their defense has been, bottom third in the league scoring-wise each of the last couple of years, and, the thing I always fight with training camp is like, okay, if something is good, is it good just because the other unit's bad?
Yeah, I feel like I play those mind games myself.
The Colts DBs have largely feasted.
Yeah.
Is that because they're facing a passing offense, as I said yesterday, that at times rivals Navy and Army?
Wishbone?
Is that going to be there with Lamar Jackson next week? Is that going to be there with Jordan Love in 2 weeks? When you look at the joint practices upcoming, those are the questions that you have. And that's what makes, training camp, I think, difficult to, again, have these kind of concrete, hardcore evaluations. I think past precedent matters. So when you look at those two things, past precedent offensively would say, well, Daniel Jones and Anthony Richardson have really never been anything. So they are probably playing a weaker passing offense. But then past precedent with Travarius Ward and Cam Bynum are great, really good.
Yeah.
And Louis Anarumo's track record is no, we are going to be a stickier coverage defense. I'm curious if this defense was there against Gardner Minshew, against Matt Ryan, would those quarterbacks have had the inconsistencies that we've seen so far from these quarterbacks? Because Minshew and Ryan largely had fine training camps, but they also were facing Gus Bradley defenses.
Yeah.
So did that help them in that endeavor. So, those are just things that I always struggle with from a training camp standpoint.
That's why it's going to be so fun to watch them win these joint practices with the Ravens, with the Packers, two really good offenses, and you'll maybe get a better feel for what they can be with a new defensive coordinator and some of the faces that they have added during the offseason. And we'll be talking about the Colts as they continue to go through, I think, a fully padded practice is what we expect a little bit later on today. Some of the other things that have been going on in the world, I know you guys talked about it over the last couple of weeks, but this was making a lot of news nationally, and I was keeping up with it over the last couple of days. Big Ten Media Days. Like, all of the big-time, long-time national writers that cover the Big Ten really just mocking the Big Ten for its media days and the fact that they are insistent on this. We want 4 automatic bids into any kind of a 16-team postseason. The SEC, like, they're really just saying they want to make all these changes, and they've basically said, well, the fans will get used to it. They'll get on board with it. And it's not playing well. I'm curious how it's been playing over the last week and a half here in Big Ten country, because outside of Big Ten country, they are getting eaten alive.
I'm laughing at this. I'm sorry. I'm looking at our YouTube chat, and
that's always dangerous.
Someone was asking why Kevin gets to sit with his back to the sun, and I got
shunned to the kid's side of the table.
I told him it was a veteran move, and now he's saying he got shunned to the kid's side of the table.
I was trying to sit next to James. This has been my spot all camp, but when the boss returns,
that's what it was.
I got to go back to my intern level.
It was so kind of you. Thank you very much. But to the question, though.
Yeah, going back to Jeff's question, I lost my train of thought there. I can understand, what they're trying to argue, but I don't know. I like hearing from Curt Cignetti about scheduling, and me and Kevin talked about this last week. It's a little hard to get up there and grandstand about how things should be when you look at the non-conference schedule. So that's kind of my opinion on it. I don't know if you want to weigh in, Kevin, but –
well, their argument would be, well, we're playing 9 conference games, and the SEC is only playing 8 conference games.
I get that, but, man, that
you can still put somebody on your early season schedule,
that
right?
Kennesaw State matchup and a few others, I'm like, Kevin's shaking his head in disgust.
Westfield High School challenges themselves more than Indiana does when it comes to a non-conference schedule here. So, yeah, I think I said everything I needed to say about Indiana's non-conference schedule and the pathetic attempt that they have with that. The Big Ten, the SEC, though, Jeff, to your point, it's the greatest rivalry out there in sports. I mean, Big Ten fans hate the SEC, and the SEC hates the Big Ten. It's absolutely beautiful. College football is one of a kind. There's nothing like it. 1 month from today, probably, we're going to get things started in earnest there. One thing I agreed with Curt Cignetti that he said kind of late in that rant, which he certainly came with plenty of info for that, was he'd love to see the Big Ten and the SEC get into a scheduling agreement. I mean, how great would that be? Wouldn't that be awesome?
I think it'd be fantastic.
Even if Indiana played Missouri or, whoever you want to throw in there from an SEC standpoint. I
think they were asking for Alabama last year, so
they were. I think there was.
They'll make it regional.
Chance.
You'll get.
I mean, the Kentucky rivalry was, something that you had there for a while. You are having to go back a little bit, but. I just think there's an element of non-conference football that, and again, I'm a little biased because I love those games so much. I love the late August, Labor Day weekend.
Yeah.
But I think it's important to, challenge yourself a bit. Like Indiana's got Illinois as their first Big Ten game. James, that's a huge game for Indiana.
Absolutely.
A lot of people think Illinois can kind of do what Indiana did last year. Some people I've heard nationally call that a pseudo play-in game to the playoff. Like the winner of that game is in the driver's seat to kind of be that third Big Ten team or however you look at it. So, Indiana's step up in competition is going to be Kennesaw State, Indiana State, and Old Dominion to Illinois, whereas Illinois at least has somebody in the non-conference. I forget who it is, but that to me seems like quite the jump. Now, again, last year Indiana benefited from a weird Big Ten schedule. Out of their control. I'm not blaming them for it. I think it's important to challenge yourself in a little bit of fashion in the month of September. So when Indiana's hit with, I think their first 4 Big Ten games are Illinois, Oregon, Iowa, and somebody else, that it's not such a steep rise in competition.
Can I give a shout-out? Shout-out to James Franklin, the Penn State football head coach, for saying that Big Ten Media Days should probably not be in Vegas. He gave some love to – seriously, he gave some love to local media. He was mentioning our local media can't afford to come out here to even cover us, the guys who cover us, guys and women who cover us every single day. And so I thought that was a nice little gesture that he did there. Now, obviously, will it change anything?
No, he doesn't want Lucas Oil,
sure.
right? Because he hates Lucas Oil?
Probably with some of the bad memories there. But nevertheless, I think he made a very good point there. Like, if you do want the coverage to be a certain way and to really kind of respect what you've built in your own conference, you can't send the conference, annual meetings or whatever you want to call it halfway across the country.
Yeah. I will say this. I've never been a fan of the SEC. I'm one of those guys that loves to see the stick get poked in their eye whenever possible. There's an arrogance, and some of it's earned, whatever. There's an arrogance about their fans and their programs, and nothing has pleased me more over the last couple of years to watch the Big Ten trample them in playoff games. That's been a lot of fun to watch. I just don't want the Big Ten to become that conference, too. And it feels like Pernetti is kind of moving in that direction. It drives me nuts. Don't want that to happen. That's my 2 cents on that, James Boyd.
Shout out to Ken from Grand Park. Ken delivers us waters every single
He's
morning.
He's the MVP.
Ken, it's our last morning here in Grand Park. We greatly appreciate you delivering us ice-cold waters each and every morning. So thank you, Ken, for that.
Ken.
I'm going to thank him by finding his high school basketball games that he referees around here and just boom.
Yeah, IHSA official, correct?
Show him some love. Yeah, I got to go and boo.
Out of respect, right?
Out of respect.
It's just out of respect.
Well, no, I would actually go and cheer him.
Man, oh, man. We briefly mentioned, and we'll get back to training camp in a second here, talking about the Fever, and they've won a couple of games in a row, and it's interesting, right, because they have to learn to play one way when Caitlin Clark is there, obviously. But, man, they're starting to figure out what to do with some of those other players, and they're playing together really well. You talked about Kelsey Mitchell a couple of minutes ago, and KK's been playing great. And everybody seems to be stepping up in their own little way, and they've kind of, for the most part, I know they had that little rough patch right before the All-Star break, but coming out of the All-Star break, the last 2 games anyway, they played really good team basketball. I went back and watched some of it on tape the last game, and moving the ball, playing defense, I like what I've seen.
Yeah, I mean, obviously they benefited from the Sky situation from an injury standpoint.
But they took advantage of it. That's what you do.
They've won 2 of 3 and, 2 in a row. If you want to go back to that Vegas game, of course, on Thursday night, last Thursday. I think tomorrow's big, the Mercury at home, and then you do start your longest road trip of the year. And, at this point, it doesn't look like Caitlin Clark's return is imminent by any means. So you're probably going to be playing multiple games, if not more, without her in the lineup. And I mean this in all seriousness, James. I think tomorrow that should be a spicy environment inside of Gainbridge Fieldhouse. I mean, the Dewana Bonner situation, that's juicy. That's, she quit on the Fever, more or less. And, it didn't work out here on the floor. It clearly didn't work out here off the floor. I mean, you want to circle some regular season matchups. That's a little Pacer-Bucksy when we kind of look at it from that realm. So I'm looking forward.
She did speak on it a little bit
to tomorrow night, and I'll be curious if she touches on it anymore.
Yeah,
at their shoot around or pregame tomorrow there. But I could see an extracurricular or 2 tomorrow night.
Yeah, she told ESPN that the issue was not coming off the bench. Now I wish they would have pressed her on it and asked her what was the issue.
She is coming off the bench in Phoenix for what it's worth.
Yeah, and she's been playing well for them. So I see it twofold. To Kevin's point, yes, we can't overlook the fact that you did quit. You axed out. You said, I don't want to be here. But on top of that, since leaving, she has played pretty well for the Phoenix Mercury. She's got a 22-point game in here, 18-point game, and obviously she's back with her fiancé. So I guess all is well in her world. But at the same time, the Fever need these wins. They're in the 6th seed right now. Top 8 teams make it, and they don't really have much wiggle room to be dropping games.
I just hope the WNBA gets itself figured out because from the top down, that organization, their commissioner and everything else, and I know it was great. The All-Star game being here was fantastic and that. But the thing, every time they seem to open their mouths in that leadership capacity with the league, they just step in it all the time. And I was reading an article last week about some of the things the commissioner was saying, and they just feel out of touch, and they don't feel like they're, did you watch the TV show Succession?
I tried to get into it, but it was way too negative.
I thought it was
all these
hilarious.
people are horrible people.
But so, he's got these kids that are all trying to take their place to be dad's successor, right? This guy who built this huge media empire. And they're just not that cut, right? And at one point in the last season, the guy gathers them all together and he goes, I love you all. You're my children. But you're not serious people. And that's how I feel every time I see somebody from the WNBA league office speak, say something, react to something, try to make something better. I can't take them seriously. They are not serious people. And it amazes me that under the wing of the NBA, they operate that way. Am I just missing something?
Yeah, honestly, my mind, when James brought up fiance, I was going to give a shout-out to Tyrese Halliburton.
Yeah.
That's where my mind's going, so sorry to pivot from WNBA leadership.
That's
but
fine.
Did you guys watch the video yesterday, Halliburton get on knee? Shout-out to Tyrese
Yes.
Halliburton, engaged.
I didn't see the video. I saw the photos.
Longtime girlfriend Jade. I think anybody that watches Pacer games will see, obviously, the Halliburton parents quite often courtside, and Jade is there as well. The man got down, and he had the boot on. And I got a little nervous when he had to push off the boot to get back up. So
No
shout
grimace,
out
though.
to Tyrese Halliburton. That man has had a hell of a month plus. Can you imagine all the emotions that man's gone through here over the last month? So engaged in Hilton Coliseum. And for those unfamiliar, I think Jade was a cheerleader at Iowa State. And Tyrese Halliburton, of course, played there for the Cyclones. So it looked like a very special day, special weekend for those two. So shout out to Tyrese Halliburton and his fiance.
Yeah, I'm sure there's many moments that he knew she was the one, but the one as a fan watching was when she was in OKC. I believe they had lost one of those games, and she was in the crowd talking crazy to the fans. And I was like, they were down. They were losing that game. They were down in the series, and they forced the game 7, obviously. But I was like, you know what? She's a real one. She's talking when they're losing, when they're down.
And she's in, like, the middle of row 15.
And just talking crazy.
Yeah.
I loved it.
She's not at the end of row 1.
Standing on business for her man. So shout out to Tyrese. Great human being. And Jay, by all accounts, from what I've seen, is a great person as well.
And you talk about just the highs and lows of the last 5 weeks of Tyrese Halliburton's life, man. It's just – you just want that guy to hurry up and get healthy and get back on the court and get this Indiana Pacers team rolling again. And I also was reading a bunch of stuff where the Pacers are starting to take it personally that nobody thinks they're going to be better than the 9th, 10th, 11th best team in the Eastern Conference, much less the rest of the NBA. And I know Tyrese Halliburton's going to be gone, and there's going to be, the roster's going to look a little bit different. But I don't see him falling off a cliff, KB. Do you?
Is the over-under still like at 39?
It's crazy to me.
Is that what I saw from a win total standpoint? No, they're going to try too hard to be in the 39 realm there. So, yeah, I think I said, a few weeks back, I fully expect them to eclipse that and just not totally sold really on many teams. I don't know, Cleveland, New York, Orlando. Wow, 38.5. So it's actually gone down a little bit there. That's the over-under win total for the Pacers.
I'm going to jump on that. Maybe before the show is over, I'm going to go jump on that.
You could pay for your French vacation.
Between that and the kids' college coming up, I'll be working until I'm about 95 is how that works right there. It's the Fan Morning Show with KB, JB, and Jeff hanging out here at Grand Park, where just in front of us a little while from now in the north end zone here, we'll be watching the Indianapolis Colts come out and do their thing. It's apparently in full pads today. We don't know if any veterans are going to take the day off, as some of them like to do here or there. But coming off a pretty good practice, at least for the quarterbacks yesterday, and that's kind of what you want to see and start, as you mentioned, Kevin, start stacking those things together and not just having an off one here and an off one there. And again, just getting some confidence for them as they get ready for these joint practices with the Ravens and the Packers coming up.
I do want to give a really genuine just acknowledgement to Braden Smith yesterday. Obviously we've touched on his story quite a lot here. Left the team around Thanksgiving last year. Obsessive compulsive disorder is what it was diagnosed as. And, for him to speak to the media, not something I really expected, to be honest with you, James. He did the, tell-all, if you will, with Joel A. Erickson. And, oftentimes when you get stories of that ilk, players, understandably, will say, hey, I spoke on it then.
Yeah.
I'm probably not going to speak on it again. And, James, I thought not only did he speak, I thought he was very candid with his comments yesterday. And, Braden has always been one of the quieter players on the football team.
Yeah.
So this is not some super outgoing individual feeling the need to, take to the mic. But I think he realizes he is in a position of notoriety and can help some others. And James, I was struck by the comment. First off, he said he's in a spectacular place, so that's the best news of all of that. But I was struck by something he said late in that session of, at one point he wasn't sure about his life and him being here. And when you hear that, it obviously hits pretty hard. So I know Braden has had a lot of support from the organization, a lot of support from his wife. as well, that offensive line room in particular. So great to see Braden Smith not only in a awesome spot, which is clearly the most important, but kudos to him for wanting to talk about it. And if that can help one or two people, he's done unbelievable work.
I think that's all fantastic, and obviously he's not a part of the organization now, but one of the things that we've always loved about this organization over the last couple of years, I mean, that's such an important initiative for this ownership group, kicking the stigma, big organization there, and it's just getting people to understand that this stuff goes on and it's real, and it's like having a physical ailment. You just got to work on it, and you have to figure out what's going on and why it's happening, and it's a real thing. It's not an imaginary thing.
No, I mean, he made a good point yesterday to speak on it. I appreciated him being as candid as he was, and I think I've talked about it on the show. I've been through some stuff with my own family. So when he brings up, inpatient, outpatient programs and, therapy and things he's had to, kind of go through or seek out to get better, a lot of that which he laid out in the story from Joel A. Erickson and Indy Star, and I would encourage anybody listening, when you get a chance after the show today, check that story out if you haven't already. But, yeah, it can be tough. It can be a little scary. And he did mention, though, that although his stuff is kind of taboo, by him talking about it, he has a chance to obviously open other people up to the possibility of getting help. And that is the main thing. So I always preach, be kind to your mind, my people.
All right, coming up in a moment, we are live from Grand Park. We'll be talking to the coach, Rick Venturi, a little bit later on, and getting ready for another practice out here in full pads for the Colts as they go through their paces in a 2025 training camp. Along with Kevin Bowen, James Boyd, I'm Jeff Rickard, Mark Dykton in the studio, hopefully wearing some clothing. We'll find out later. Maybe we don't want to find out. It's all coming up next night on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
1-1 pitch. He hits it to deep left center. Look out. Do you believe it? It's gone. We will go to the 11th, tied at 11. Sandberg, in the Cubs' last at-bat, has twice delivered a game-tying home run, a solo shot of the ninth.
This is the Fan Morning Show with KB, JB, and Jeff.
Not only was it long, but it was deep and wide. People excited.
You've ever looked down and thought, wow, this looks heinous?
I got to see him come out of the shower.
The Miles Turner stuff just smacked me right in the forehead.
Mark Dykton, pull it out.
I was thinking of Wood back in COVID.
I don't get this as much anymore. In fact, I don't get it at all anymore. I kind of miss it.
Can I move it and flick it? Maybe I'll make it work.
That's a big one, James.
I'm proud that you grabbed a banana on the way out, KB.
You could still see him like flexing it, messing with it, rubbing it, and you know it's going to be more sore the next day.
I don't know. I like the dad bod, man.
Mark is trying to get a winner, but I'm talking about wieners.
It's like dicks on steroids.
It doesn't matter what you say, what you're talking about, what you mean, what's really going on. It will be taken out of context. It will be strung together to make something completely different than what was originally intended. And near as I can tell, I am more convinced than ever that Mark is simply doing the show from the control room with no windows in his tighty-whities just sitting there eating Cheetos.
I'm a briefs man, first of all.
I was going to say, he's going to clip that right there. See, you're trying to blackmail him. He's got you. But
second of all, there's
funny.
nothing out of context. That is all words you've said. And either I've had Kevin mention the dicks on steroids that James was talking about the other day about the sporting goods store.
Yes.
I didn't mention anything.
And then,
he got threw me under the bus yesterday.
I have listeners that DM me and they say, "Did you catch that? Did you catch what Jeff said? Did you catch what Kevin said?" Yes, I do. I have a keen ear, so I have trained people that if there are things that are of questionable material, they tell me. I pull it and I play it again.
God, I pray for your daughters, Mark Dykton.
They're in trouble.
I'll just take my L. It happens, Every now and then I'll say something I probably regret, and Mark holds me accountable. So. It is what it is, man.
You were talking about a sporting goods store, for goodness sake.
Yeah, but honestly, once I
had a dozen people reach out and say, "Did you hear what James just said?"
Yeah, it's hard to live that one down. That's probably the most egregious thing I've said on the show so far. But honestly, I'm only a few months in still, so this time next year, I'm sure it'll be something else that Mark has clipped.
He is Mark Dykton back at the studio, guaranteed. If it's not the Cheetos, what are we munching on in your tighty-whities up there?
Well, good Lord, I can make a show up and that sentence right there. Good Lord. I'm not eating anything today, just coffee and persevering.
All right. Well, we are persevering. It's going to be a long, hot day for the Indianapolis Colts and all those coming up here to watch them. Full practice in pads today at about 10 o'clock. And it's more, they always talk about the heat and the humidity. You're getting everything today, Kevin. You're getting it all today.
Yeah, I mean, you probably add up all of it, the full pads, the heat, consecutive days. This is probably, I don't want to act like this is 1982 NFL training camps, but this is probably the closest thing you're going to get to a true grind here of camp. Honestly, there's not too many back-to-back days left, really, after this. I think they might go back-to-back on the weekend days a couple times, but that's really it. So can the quarterback string it together? We've seen hot and cold from both of them over the last 3 or 4 sessions. So do either of them start to string it together? Because right now, James, I would say neither has taken a firm grasp or lead at all through the first 5 days. And, we are approaching the midway point of camp, as crazy as that might sound. We get to truer evaluation points in joint practices and preseason games. But right now, I'd say neither leads, and probably Daniel Jones needs to lead significantly if he's going to be the starter.
A month ago, we're talking about how badly is Anthony Richardson's shoulder. If we're having this discussion about whether he is really going to be available for camp, as it turns out he is available, and he's been practicing every single day. Have either of you seen any remnants or any problems whatsoever with what he's done and how he's doing and whether or not he truly is completely healthy? Because it sure seems like over the last 4 or 5 days, everything I've seen online and what I've read from you guys, he seems like he's good to go.
They've only limited him throughout the individual periods, and I believe that's continued throughout the first 5 training camp practices. But other than that, he looks pretty good. There is no sort of setbacks or something where I'm looking like, oh, man, he's not doing what the other quarterbacks would normally do. There's a little less volume in individual drills, but all the team periods, he looks fine out there, not showing any signs of, being limited or being in pain, which is a good thing. But also with Anthony, it's not enough to just do this for a couple of days. You got to do it honestly, for the foreseeable future to kind of shake that narrative of being injury prone and kind of being a bit not durable.
I know we got into this yesterday, James, but I'll go back there because I thought yesterday's practice was another one for Richardson in a step in the right direction from an underneath passing game standpoint. I've said here for the last week or so, and I genuinely mean it. Now, again, the bar is extremely low when I say what I'm about to say, but I have seen improvement in the underneath passing game. Now, I'm talking specifically for him. I'm not talking general NFL quarterback accuracy, but the egregious, did he really throw that ball into the ground? Did he really hit that rooster sitting on that fence over there? That has been typical of him.
Did he hit the rooster?
In
crazy.
The first two
the rooster's famous here. Come on.
Training camps. And again, I used the analogy yesterday. Maybe he's the guy that didn't show up to class ever, and now he's just showing up to class. Do you really compliment him for just showing up to class? But I continue to stand by it. I do think there have been improvements in that area. Now, again, we're on July 29th. The evaluation periods are still early in the semester. He will get much truer evaluation points against other competition, against, defenses he hasn't seen, with a red jersey off, all of that. Can that continue? But, I'd venture to guess if I split up the clips from the 2023 and 2024 training camps and showed you the first week or so and then showed you what he's looked like so far here, I think you would see improvement. Now, that doesn't mean he's going to win Most Improved Player of the Year or anything like that. I'm just sharing with you what my eyes have seen a handful of days into camp.
I can't wait to hear from Coach Venturi a little bit later on today because he's so good at seeing the little things, what he's looking for from an offensive lineman in training camp, what he wants to see out of the new free agents in the secondary right now, what he's really seeing as far as footwork and timing and delivery. And one of the things I'm looking forward to seeing today when they go full pads against one another is it sounds like such a little thing, but order of operations. Does a quarterback get you to the line of scrimmage, get you in the right situation? Does he have command of everything? Is he showing the wide receiver, no, you got to move over here a little bit. No, you got to come here and go there. Those are the little things I like to see, too, as much as the footwork and whether he can stay healthy. Does he have complete command of the offense, and he's the guy with the keys to the car? That's what I want to see today, too.
We probably should get to it, Mark. I'm kind of realizing here we're on a bit of a time crunch. Rick Venturi scheduled to join us at 9, but we did catch up with JT Tuimoloau yesterday after practice. Obviously, Jeff was still enjoying the flight back to the States. So this was James Boyd and myself, Kevin Bowen, with the second-round pick out of, the Ohio State, JT Tuimoloau. All right, welcome back to Colts camp. First full padded practice here in Westfield is just wrapped up. We greatly appreciate the patience of our next guest. JT Tuimoloau is with us here in Westfield. JT, how you doing, man?
I'm doing great. How are you guys, man?
How was day one in full pads?
Oh, it was great. I feel like I haven't put on pads in a minute, but it's glad to be back home.
Yeah. Did you circle this one? Was this one, as a guy in the trenches that you kind of look forward to this day? The first four, it's like, come on.
Yeah, I feel like if you're not looking forward to a first full padded practice, something's wrong. But, this is when I was like, man, woke up today, like, here we go, football started.
So obviously you come from a program that is one of the best in the country, if not the best in the country after winning a national championship. But what has it been like? What's the biggest difference between college and pro so far for you?
Yeah, I would say you're on your own in a way that, when you leave the facility, it's be a pro. And I think it's underestimating until you really get into the league where it's like, okay, now it's, how do I be my own coach, my own motivator? There's not you don't have a Coach Mick to threaten you if you're late. If you're late, that's on you. So I think here is just how bad do you want it, and how much self-motivating or self-talk are you going to give yourself to get ready for the day.
So one follow-up on that, because I've heard players talk about the transition from college to the NFL, and you don't have you have your draft mates and things like that, but from a friendship standpoint, I don't know if it's harder is the right word, but is it more unique to build those relationships because you're with people that are such different age demographics or backgrounds and things like that?
Yeah, so at first I was like, man, I'm going to have to come in, be by myself, earn my respect. But when I came in, one, you still have to earn your respect, but two, it's like these guys are family. I'm just like the little brother right now. So, but the D-line group, man, they're great. I think it's a very a great family aspect. And talking to Buck, he was just saying, like, we can't have that. You can't have that family aspect and go out and feel like you're going to win. And coming here, when I came in, it was like open arms. Everybody was challenging me to go work. How hard can you work? And just let it all go and pretty much show why we got you. And, that's one thing I am very grateful for, is that everybody around me is supportive, but they challenge me, and it's always a competition.
It's the pride of Ohio State. He had a hell of a run in their playoff run. JT Tuimoloau with us here live in Westfield. James brought up that playoff run. You did beat Notre Dame to win the national championship.
Notre Dame guy.
I am a Notre Dame fan.
Sorry about that, man.
I'll put that to the side for a second. Congrats. Your fellow draft mate was the quarterback in that game, and Riley Leonard. The amount of smack that you have slid into Riley Leonard has been what?
None.
Whoa, you're taking the high road.
What?
Yeah, none, man. That's my guy. So
see, this is why God gives certain people certain talents, because no way I would be like this. No way.
James Boyd does
I'll be
not
talking
take
so
the high
crazy.
road. He does seem like too nice of a guy to talk smack to.
Oh, I mean, I just feel like you don't really got to talk smack. I mean, everybody, once you're off the field, it's family at that point. But, once you're on the field, it's me versus you. And, Riley's a great guy, and, he's one of my brothers.
How would you describe Lou Anarumo as a defensive coordinator?
Oh, edge. I'd say edge in a person who doesn't let you slack. He's always on you. He's always coaching you to be at your best. And no matter who you are, he's making sure that he holds you accountable. And that's one thing I love about Coach Lou is he comes in every day with that fire and that passion, and it's just feeding into the defense. And that's one thing I'm very blessed to have, and especially those attributes or those characteristics inside of a DC.
When you lined up against a certain player for the first time, I'm going to ask you which player kind of stood out to you from like I'm in the pros standpoint. Like, was it Quentin Nelson? Was it someone else of that nature where you're like, dang, like this dude is really good? Braden Smith, others?
I think, I say the whole line. I mean, when you're in here, everyone has a different everyone's different in the way that they play, and everybody's a craftsman of their game. And going against all of them, it's one of those, like, when you get lined up, you're like, dang, I remember I used to watch this guy, and now we're going against each other. It's just a blink of an eye, and I think those moments you kind of have to realize and understand that, hey, don't let those moments pass by. Enjoy the moment. And like my dad always says, be where your feet's at. But, going against them, especially going against Anthony Richardson, when he pulls the ball and he tests your athleticism, that's when you're like, all right, I'm in the league now. So, but it's fun always.
JT Tuimoloau with us here at Colts training camp. Number 91. Was there any reason behind that? I know you don't have all the numbers available to you. Any reason behind 91?
No, and I think that kind of keeps the tradition going of how I've always had my numbers. It's always been like that was what they had. In high school, 33 was the only number that fit me. Going to college, 44 is the best number they had, and then coming here, it was 91. So I think it's a chance to start your own legacy with start a new legacy with each number.
Now rookies, I remember this in years past. I don't know if they still do it. Did you have to bring snacks for the D line around?
Man. Yeah, I think snacks is like it doesn't really show how much you have to actually bring.
Okay, walk us through the grocery list.
Oh man, so I'm a man of varieties.
Okay.
You got all over. You got from chips to not just any chocolates, the most expensive good chocolates, which is like, I'm swiping my card. I'm like, I've never spent this much on stuff.
Where are you going? Are you going to the local grocery?
Well,
you going to chocolate shops? Where
I have to go to Target because they love Joyride candy.
Okay.
So
sure.
I feel like that's only at Target, which I've known of. I have to go to the gas station to get specifically Spitz cracked pepper seeds. Nothing less, nothing different. That's
Dang,
what it is.
That is oddly specific. Dang.
Yeah. So let's just say my trunk was full for both OTAs and training camp.
I love that.
Along the lines of the unserious questions we're asking you right now, I did have a chance to ask you a couple days ago about your basketball career. And I was like, you hoop like a football player. You looked at me like I was crazy. Yeah. But I didn't know that you actually got an offer for basketball. So can you take us through the decision to, one, choose football, but also how good you were at basketball?
Yeah. I take pride in my basketball skills. I always tell the boys, I'm a humble guy, but when it comes to basketball, I'll be cocky about my basketball.
So if you would have beat Riley Leonard one-on-one in basketball,
I already told Riley. That's the only smack talk I've told Riley was, hey, can't touch me on the basketball court.
He can play a little.
Yeah, he can play. And I don't know if our teams cross paths because he played for Indy Heat
Okay.
And I played for Seattle Rotary and Oakland Soldiers at some points. And I've cross-passed with Indy Heat.
Okay.
And let's just say we always came out on top.
He's a man of his word. He's a man of his word at this point.
But yeah, the offers, I don't think college coaches understood how serious I was about basketball. But for me, the same work I put in for football was the same work I put in for basketball. And I think being a dual sport athlete also helped me on the field. Being able to move, be light on my feet, and just move like a ballerina. And once it got to my senior year, I think a lot of people thought, oh, he's going to stop playing basketball and just focus solely on football. But for me, it was like, nah, like my dad, I always told my dad, man, I want to be a dual sport athlete. I always looked up to Julius Peppers. And
North Carolina,
that's been one guy I was like, man, he can do it, I can do it. And I'm getting dual offers from the 5 colleges I had at my top. And, you know, once I went in for, I always say Coach Day did one hell of a job, because once I went in for fall camp, he just snatched me in. It just held me. And I was like, oh, well, there goes basketball, so I'm going to focus on football. But still, it's always fun to get on the court to get your conditioning in.
Definitely paid off for you. A couple minutes left here. We appreciate JT Tuimoloau and his time here in Westfield. You know, I asked this a lot of guys, and I'm curious, in that D-line room, if you could take one skill set from any of your fellow D linemen and incorporate it into your game, what would be that skill set, and who would you be taking it from?
Man, that's hard. I don't think there's one person I can choose from. I mean, I talked to so many guys in there, like Buck. Man, Buck's been doing this for a long time and still moves like he's only a year in. Latu, the way he bends, Taekwon and Quiddy's power, just how they set it up, from Sosa's get off. I mean, you can just go on and on. So I always try to, you know, make sure my toolbox is always growing.
So what would they take from you, do you think?
Besides your jump shot, sounds like.
Right.
I don't know yet. Hopefully they take my power. Hopefully that'll be a compliment if they said they'll take my power, but I don't know. I think I still got to show more to have that statement have an answer to it.
Well, JT, we can't thank you enough, man. We hope Indy treats you well. We know you're a long ways away from home, but, you know, from Ohio State Central, Midwest hospitality hopefully is here. And thank you very much for being patient with us and hopping on.
Of course, no problem. Appreciate you guys, man.
And we appreciate him, and all the rest of the Colts have been stopping by here to talk to us about camp. That was JT Tuimoloau, thank you very much, along with James Boyd and Kevin Bowen. And you talk about just how elite athletes are at this level. It's not uncommon to find guys, it's not everybody, but JB, you've seen it over the time, guys that make it to the NFL, that make it to the NBA, that make it to Major League Baseball. They're multi-sport athletes as kids growing up. They could do everything well. This is a guy that seriously thought about playing college basketball at one point in time. It's pretty amazing stuff.
Very good athlete. And, again, I do want to see the jump shot because everyone says they have it, but I'm still skeptical, KB. But, no, getting a Division I offer in basketball, it looks like it worked out pretty well in football because, obviously, he's a national champion, a second-round pick, and got a little extra money than last year's second-round pick. I guess that's a newsworthy item. I believe, Kevin, when I did the math on the guaranteed money from last year's number 45 pick versus this year's number 45 pick, JT Tuimoloau, I believe he got 88% of his contract fully guaranteed. And then last year's number 45 pick, Edgerrin Cooper, the linebacker for the Packers, had like 74%. So got the business taken care of, and now he's trying to get the football things taken care of on the field.
Yeah, thank those guys ahead of him, right?
Yeah.
I mean, he had a hell of a run in Ohio State's playoff run. He was just unblockable, really, in all 4 of those games. And you're talking, Tennessee, Oregon, Texas, and Notre Dame. So it's not like he was playing just some run-of-the-mill competition there. They've moved him around a lot. You know, I'd say primarily, again, as a reserve. And I'll be curious to see where he impacts. Boy, I loved watching Julius Peppers at North Carolina. Well, he brought that up and made me want to YouTube highlight Julius Peppers. And then I'm like, you know what? I probably should pay attention to my kids tonight.
It's not a bad way to go. All right, we'll have Rick Venturi coming up top of the hour. Tell us a little bit more about what he's seeing with his keen eye through the first couple of days, week or so of camp. In the meantime, it is time to check it down.
The Morning Checkdown on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Kevin, we continue our coverage of the Colts from camp up here at Grand Park, and the rest of the week, this is the last morning practice, and then a little time off, and then it's back in the evening, right?
Yeah, they'll have about, I guess if you literally added up north of 50 hours off between the 11:30 end time today until off day Wednesday, and then a night practice 8 o'clock. The start time here Thursday at Grand Park. Sounds like a situational scrimmage, so that's something, a little new wrinkle from Shane Steichen, so we'll see what all of that entails. But yeah, the biggest news item from yesterday, obviously the quarterbacks had a strong day, but Bernhard Raimann inks that extension. James Boyd, it's just a thought I had in my mind. You think Carly Ursay-Gordon heard Bernhard Raimann's comments and said, you know what, my first extension under my watch, I don't need this to be the narrative. I don't need, we don't pay our quality players, we don't value the left tackle position, or am I grasping at way, way high straws with that one?
Probably grasping a little bit. I think that Chris Ballard deserves some credit there for getting that deal done. He has paid his homegrown talent in the past, and particularly when it comes to that offensive line. We've seen Quentin Nelson, Braden Smith, and obviously Ryan Kelly, who's moved on to the Vikings, all receive lucrative extensions before their rookie contracts expired. So this was just a matter of time.
Jonathan Taylor's public words lasted a whole lot longer than Bernhard Raimann's public words.
Hey, when you play the right position, I guess you don't have to fight as much, but certainly a no-brainer there.
And what do you expect to see at Colts camp today when the offense and defense put the pads on and stare each other down?
Hard to say. I think what a lot of people will want to see if you're in that Colts front office or if you're on that Colts coaching staff, Jeff, is the continued play of the quarterbacks being at a higher level than it has been previously throughout camp. I thought yesterday was a massive step forward for both quarterbacks, and particularly for Anthony Richardson when it comes to accuracy and timing and throwing with anticipation, things of that nature. So we will see if they can stack on that today, and if not, what does that mean for the quarterback competition?
All right, some sad news to pass along. Major League Baseball, if you hadn't heard it, Ryne Sandberg passes away at the age of 65, former Hall of Fame second baseman for the Chicago Cubs. And, Mark, we didn't have time to get a lot of your thoughts in that first hour, but being a lifelong Cubs fan, this is one of the cornerstones of your youth, I would imagine.
I mean, Ryne Sandberg, Ernie Banks, Ron Santo, those are three names that are synonymous with Cubs lore. Even if you are a new Cubs fan, you are told from a very early age, these are the guys that you need to learn about if you don't know about them already. And all three, unfortunately, already gone earlier in life than they should be and stuff. Ryne Sandberg, the latest example, but never heard a bad thing about Rhino. They said, teammates, even rivals, you never heard a bad word about Ryne Sandberg, and he was great to the community. There's pictures floating around of him asking Pete Crow Armstrong for a autograph on his baseball bat at Cubs convention this past March, or this past year, I should say. So, just seemed like a genuinely good dude and just loved being around baseball, loved trying to teach the game of baseball, and cancer sucks, and unfortunately it affects someone we know pretty much every single day, and unfortunately he was the latest.
Yeah, and I imagine growing up in Indianapolis, you obviously follow the Cubs a little bit, Kevin, but that's a guy that everybody knows about, Ryne Sandberg.
Yeah, I shared the story earlier. My grandma was a huge Cubs fan, so whenever I was sick from school, I actually did not mind it at all. We'd go over to Grandma's house, and she'd dial up WGN for me, and he's really one of the first athletes I vividly remember watching. And, he kind of epitomized, I guess, that Cubs era and just his level of play and, kind of a true, hustle player. Jeff, you mentioned earlier, kind of brought some power to a position you usually don't think of. And I don't know, 23 before 23, right, in that city. Rest in peace to Rhino.
Hate to hear that. On the field yesterday, Milwaukee Brewers did best the Cubs. 8-4 was the final score there. Dodgers over the Reds, 5-2 at the Great American Ballpark, and the Cardinals got the best of Miami. 7-1 was the final score there. Coming up in just a moment, we'll talk more about the Colts and the National Football League as camps are happening all over the country. Rick Venturi, the coach, stops by. Top of the hour, 9 o'clock. James Boyd, Kevin Bowen, I'm Jeff Rickard, and it's starting to come to life out there in front of us on the practice field. And maybe you'll be out here a little bit later on today, too. Bring your sunscreen, your sunglasses, and we're lucky now I'm in the shade, so the sun's not right on us, but it's going to be a hot one, so plan for that. We'll continue next on 93.5 and 107.5, The Fan.
You're listening to the Fan Morning Show on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Well, it appears we've lost the guys' connection. They're supposed to come back there, so we're enjoying some Static X music for a second, but it appears their connection has dropped out because I cannot hear them, and apparently they can't hear me. So we're going to reestablish with the guys shortly as they're out at Westfield's Grand Park for training camp. We got our engineers looking at it right now, but appears like they're having an issue right now. So we're going to see if they are back with us. Guys, can you hear me or no? Okay, that's a no. So we're going to take a quick timeout. Then we will restructure this. We'll reset the signal with them, and we will get back connected with the boys out at Westfield.
Early on, they've showed
there he is. There he is. James is back.
Yeah, I still have a little linebacker concern. I definitely hear you out. I mean, Jakey in particular, that play he made on Tyler Warren yesterday was a really nice play, jarring that ball loose from Warren. Honestly, those back-to-back reps, it's not something we've seen from Warren of, well-thrown balls on target. Justin Wally kind of climbed the ladder to knock the ball out of Warren on that very next play. And, right now we are, this is day 6. Shane Steichen said the hope is Zaire Franklin returns at some point this week. That would be his camp debut. That's not the most shocking news item from the Colts. I think they thought when Zaire had this surgery in early May that he could miss a week or two of camp, and right now we are a week exactly today. So, it looks to be right in between that week 1 and week 2 here. But, again, I don't want to overreact to, one day in full pads. We do a daily show here, so we kind of react as the, training camp schedule moves along. I did think yesterday was a nice day for the O-line group in full pads. I thought they had, sometimes you can get the D-line just absolutely feasting in those moments, and when the quarterbacks have as clean a pockets as they did yesterday, you would hope they find the efficiency that they did. So I thought O-line a little better than the D-line here from a starting unit standpoint.
Can I give some love real quick to Mark Dykton? Apparently we dropped out for about 90 seconds, so we had Mark on the mic by himself. He behaved himself. He got us through.
He was vamping.
So I appreciate the help there.
I was doing open mic night. I discussed my doctor's visit and everything like that. So we're going through it. We're going through the ins and outs of everything.
I'm not even going to ask any follow-up questions.
Check those moles, people.
One thing that keeps coming up, whether I'm reading online, I'm listening to you guys this morning, Justin Wally's name keeps coming up. Seems to be having a pretty good camp. Kev, what do you have to say about him so far?
Yeah, I mean, I would say the impression for me, James, is more, and again, he had a great play on Warren yesterday. The impression for me is more of the type of reps he's getting as opposed to, like, the amount of playmaking he's doing. I wouldn't say, like, it's been bad by any means, but he's just getting the important starting reps as that third corner. I think, for example, Travarius Ward, I know A.D. Mitchell got the best of him in a couple one-on-ones yesterday, but, like, he's been, more of the playmaker. Jalen Jones, for example, had a really nice day from an individual standpoint yesterday. Wally has definitely had a play or two, but it's been more of just like wow, here we are 6 days into camp, and there's Wally continuing to seemingly be that third corner. That is probably what has stood out to me. Other guys individually have maybe had more opportunities to make plays on the ball, for example, but they clearly like him a whole lot, and he right now is going to earn, I would say, a very big role here early in the season. And I am reminded, at the start of last year, you had Juju Brents playing every snap. You had Samuel Womack as a waiver claim at the end of the preseason, needing to play virtually every snap early in the year. Well, now, you might label Juju Brents as the fifth corner. You might label Samuel Womack as fighting to make the team. So I don't know if there's a position on the team that has been overhauled more in the offseason in a positive direction than corner.
And you know what? I do want to give some credit to Juju Brents. I know we talked about it a little bit on the show, but I thought that he's had a pretty solid camp so far. And if anything, Kevin, he's going to force this defense, Lou Anarumo in particular, to figure out a way to get him on the field if he continues to play like the way that he has. With some of the, stinginess on defense, I thought he's been pretty sticky in coverage, a couple of pass breakups. He's healthy, and I think that's a big part of his role in this defense. But, look at depth as far as that cornerback room. I would feel really good about that because we haven't mentioned Jalen Jones. I mean, this guy started last year 17 games, all 17 games, and he's someone who I thought took a step forward last year. So that cornerback room, yes, has been revamped to your point, Kevin, but I think that there also is a good amount of talent in that room as well.
Yeah, and I would say this, too, about Juju. I think in years past, the Colts have just blindly assumed he would be the guy.
Yeah.
And it took 3 years, but they've learned their lesson there of like, okay, we still want to see him.
Right.
And I get that, as they should. And he's been – I mean, when's the last time he's had 6 straight practices as long as he's out here today? So I understand, and they should still evaluate him, but they didn't blindly hand the keys to him this offseason. They said, no, here's Travaris Ward's money. Here's Justin Wally in round 3. And I think that's really, really important for a position that, when guys get nicked up, they can get exposed in a hurry there.
What I'm hearing is there's a chance that there could be 5 guys that they can depend on to a great degree at the cornerback spot if things keep going on. Not saying that they're all pro candidates, but it sounds like they're pretty getting comfortable with the depth of guys that they do have. And you need 5 cornerbacks to get through a stretch of a season.
Yeah, I would say based off of what happened last year at this point where there was no additions to that cornerback room, we all were like, man, this is a position that you have neglected, and it came back to bite them very quickly throughout the season. Yes, this is a totally different space, in my opinion, when it comes to the cornerback room.
Man, it's going to make them feel a lot better about that. We're out at Grand Park getting ready for another day of the Colts out here. It's going to be a warm one. They'll be on the field from 10 to 11:30. And then after that, you don't get to see your Colts again until an evening practice coming up on Thursday night. We'll talk about all that schedule as we roll along here. You want to get in on it? Give us a shout at 239-1070, 317-239-1070 as the Colts get ready for a full day of pads today. And then, of course, next week they'll have some joint practices, the first of 2. They've got the Ravens coming in, and then a couple weeks after that, they've got the Packers coming as well. So we'll keep you up to date on all that. I knew that was coming. He is on. He may be shirtless and pantless, but he is still on the board and ready to go back there, Mark.
Got a host on the fly, too, and your guy's signal drops out, so stop spilling water all over the table.
Did you have to drop the bag of Cheetos there and hurry up and grab the mic? Is that what happened?
It's hot fries, first of all. It's not Cheetos.
Hot
but no,
fries.
I'm not doing that to my stomach at 8:30 in the morning.
Yeah, you'll save that for 9:15, right?
Hey, every little bit helps.
All right. More from Colts Camp coming up in a moment here as we continue at 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
You're listening to the Fan Morning Show on Sports Radio 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Kevin Bowen, James Boyd, Jeff Rickard, Mark Dankton back at the studio. Coach Rick Venturi on deck. Coming up in a minute. Yesterday, guys, you had a chance to talk to Braden Smith, who has certainly been through it and persevered, and here he is on the other side getting ready for another year as part of an anchor of that offensive line. And now that you've had 24 hours to think about that conversation, what were some of your takeaways, JB?
I think it was just very brave of him to come out and speak and honestly offer up some vulnerability and to really be a voice for people that might not be willing to speak as much as he did on the subject. I thought, Kevin, he was very vulnerable, very honest, and honestly, he seemed like he had a bit of a levity to him that we didn't necessarily see or feel last year in hindsight. So here is Braden Smith, and I had a chance to ask him about what happened, him explaining it to his teammates, and ultimately getting on the other side.
Yeah, I mean, last year before I left, I think it was the day before Thanksgiving. The day before, I came in, got into the parking lot, left immediately. It felt like I had a mental collapse, and I went home. And, you've heard the story before. I went home, took a nap. My wife thought when I woke up, I was going to be in a better spot. And I just wasn't there. It was pretty dark, and that's kind of when, we decided as a collective, group, me and my wife, I needed to get help. And so that next day, owe it to the team, owe it to the guys to let them know what's up, that I had to take some time away, that, I needed to get help, and, kind of just letting people know what's up versus kind of being an enigma, kind of guessing what's going on. The guys knew what was going on, kind of on the outside looking in. Obviously, they didn't know the full details, but they knew that something was wrong. So just kind of let them know, I need to get help. This is bigger than football right now. And, everyone was very supportive. The coaches were supportive. My teammates were supportive. The Ursays were all supportive. I felt very supported during the whole thing.
Kevin Bowen, we all kind of knew the story, but to hear him opening it up and talking about it a little bit more and all the things we've learned since then, it really is important, that people deal with these things and recognize that it's stuff that needs to be dealt with and recognized. It also shows that amazing, again, his ability to kind of work through it and get himself back to where he is out here on the field.
Yeah, he said he feels like he's in a spectacular place. That was a direct quote he had. And, at one point he also shared late last year that, he was just trying to be alive. And, when he said that yesterday, that really, really struck me. Braden is one of easily the quietest players on this team, and so as I touched on the opening hour, for him to want to speak on it, I was a little surprised by it. And then just how candid he was once he got in front of the mic. And, when I heard him talk football-wise, he definitely did not sound like a guy, walking up the 18th hole, to use that analogy. And I bring that up because he is getting to the age of 30. He is in a contract year. By the way, the Colts just made official Bernhard Raimann inking that extension this morning. But, one thing I think we forget about Braden, and again, the story obviously changed totally once he left the team. But, James, up until that point, and again, he left the team the Wednesday of Thanksgiving he just mentioned, he had missed one snap all last season. We're talking about
he played well.
North
That's the part
of 700 snaps for a guy that has battled some injuries in 21 and 23. So, if he can replicate that, would be absolutely huge, because you're going to have, stability issues, inconsistent issues at quarterback. That's a given. No matter who's starting, you can't have inconsistency at the bookends. And Bernhard Raimann, obviously the extension, and Braden Smith in a much better spot. You would like to think that would secure those two very, very vital positions.
How are you guys feeling about the offensive line in general right now? With the subtractions, the additions, the guys that they have re-signed, and where they're at as we sit here coming up on the end of the first real week of training camp?
I feel like it's always kind of hard to tell, just because you can't hit as much as you would throughout regular season games, even preseason games. But I think so far I haven't seen any players where I'm like, oh my gosh, Matt Gonzalez is unplayable at right guard, or, with Danny Pinter, or Tanner Bortolini, these guys are just unfit, to play the position completely. However, You know, I see Coach Venturi turning around looking at me. I feel like I can hear him in my ears saying that nothing matters until you play real football. But that's why when people ask me about the offensive defensive lines, it's hard to really say. So if anything, they're healthy, they're being active, and I do think that Tony Sperano wants to clean up some of the operational stuff, Kevin. We've seen some false starts out here. Not yesterday, but the day before, I believe on that Saturday, when they're doing some red zone work and then kind of, doing some last-minute, 2-minute drill type of things. He got a bit frustrated with how, clunky things had gotten with some of the false starts and pre-snap penalties. So they get that cleaned up. I think that's the biggest thing you probably want to work on at this point in the year.
Yeah. We talked about it a little while ago, and the crazy thing about watching camp is you're always wondering, hey, is that guy or is that team or is that unit playing all that well right now? Or is the team they're going against maybe not playing so well right now? And you're trying to evaluate the two of those things together. And I see Coach Venturi nodding his head in that, and he'll let us know a little bit about that coming up in a few minutes now. But that's sometimes it's hard to tell. Somebody's having a great camp. Well, maybe they're just beating up on a weakling on the other side. It's hard to say sometimes. And so those, one of my favorite things they've done for a while now is these joint practices where you actually get to go against another team and another system and another player or players, and you really start to see what true competition is going to look like as opposed to going up against the same guys you've been going up against to practice after practice after practice after practice. So looking forward to hearing what Coach Venturi has to say about all those things coming up in just a few minutes. Other than that, it doesn't feel like, from just all the things that I've been watching from afar before coming into today, doesn't feel like there's been any huge big surprises or revelations, good, bad, or otherwise so far. It's been kind of camp, right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if the Ryman news, based off where the news cycle was late last week. Again, the Colts made that official. Chris Ballard's comments on that. Bernard has worked extremely hard. This contract extension is a testament to his character, dedication, and persistence. He exemplifies each of our team's 4 pillars and is a leader in our locker room. I'm excited for him and his family on this well-deserved contract extension. I don't know who the hell the GM's going to be next year. I don't know who the hell the head coach is going to be next year. I don't know who the hell the quarterback's going to be next year. I don't care who is occupying any of those spots. Bernard Ryman needs to be the left tackle. So, sometimes you get in these weird situations of like, oh boy, lame ducks. Should we give extensions? Should we not? This, to me, was a no-brainer. Again, especially with Braden Smith's status, not that I think it's going to be done after this year. There is just a general unknown. I didn't get the feeling from him yesterday that this is an Anthony Costanzo situation, but still, you just never know. So to me, again, the Ryman thing, easily the biggest news item so far. And, to get back to the O-line thought, and again, Coach Venturi is going to join us on the other side. Yesterday was the first true evaluation period. We don't get, with the O-line, it's kids' gloves those first 4 days. I was talking with Joe Wrights yesterday. He made a good point. He said that as an O-lineman, he always found it harder to block guys without pads on. He found it easier once they put the pads on. And again, the physicality ramps up, and certainly you'll get a welcome to the NFL moment or two from some of these guys. But I thought all in all, for day one, 75-minute practice, but I thought the O-line did a nice job and helped Daniel Jones and Anthony Richardson have the efficient days they did.
That's going to be important for them all year long. We will talk to the man himself. Rick Venturi, looking smooth and cool in those shades as ever. He'll be joining us next year as we continue on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
You're listening to the Fan Morning Show on Sports Radio 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
That's just pro camp.
Grand Park, the Indianapolis Colts getting ready to go full pads in about an hour or so. Along with James Boyd, Kevin Bowen, I'm Jeff Rickard, Mark Thankton back at the studio. And my favorite part of training camp is here and now. My buddy, the coach, Rick Venturi, stops by. How you doing, my man?
Oh, I'm doing great. You guys know me. I love training camp, particularly the first 2 weeks. And this is 44 if you count my one in the CFL. And one of the reasons I love it is it's really the teaching and evaluating, and you can see development part of it. Well, once you get into the season, it's all pressure to win. And even when you get into preseason games, the weeks go faster. But these first 2 weeks, you're coaching real ball out there. And I loved it for 44 years. I still love it.
How important is it they take film and from every viewpoint you can imagine of all these practices? How important is that at the end of the day when you get everybody together and you break down what you saw in practice as opposed to just fixing things on the field?
Oh, no, it's everything, Jeff. It really is everything, And in modern day, the way they practice, one a day, you're able to get to all that tape. There's no tape left unsaid. In my day, when you had 2-a-days for 6 weeks, you actually didn't get to all. And I never liked that, to be honest with you. I was not a dinosaur in terms of, we got to go 6 weeks of 2-a-days. But, there are certain players, for instance, I've had guys, some guys learn quickly on the blackboard. Some guys, you have to walk them through it on the field. And then most players learn the most from tape. They see themselves, you correct step by step. And, it's invaluable to say the least.
That voice full well. That's the coach, Rick Venturi. We always appreciate our training camp combos with him. It's our final morning show here at training camp, so we thought perfect time to talk to the coach. Okay, we're 5 days in. I'll leave it pretty open-ended quarterback-wise. What have been your observations from the competition that is Daniel Jones and Anthony Richardson?
Well, personally, there's not an appreciable difference. There's not like a head and shoulders difference. And to me, because I've watched so much tape on them, they kind of are what they are. Daniel, I would say on the plus side, is even a better athlete than I thought he was. He can really move. He's made a couple great throws on the run, one last night, one last week. And you see that, and the biggest key with Daniel, can you rehab his ego that is shattered just like they did with Sam Darnold, and can he repeat the 22 season? If you would have made the decision on Daniel after the 22 season and Richardson after 25 season, there wouldn't even be close. I mean, I could go through the stats. They're overwhelming. So, and then in Richardson, he's really ready to go. The one thing, Richardson's, the 3 A's are what you worry about. 1, availability. 2, can he anticipate in between the numbers? And 3, does he have pinpoint Sunday accuracy? I call Saturday accuracy is throwing through a picture window. Sunday accuracy is a portal, okay? You have to have that ball placement right. And availability, his stylistically, he's an injury waiting to happen because he doesn't play like a Lamar Jackson, like a point guard. He plays like a fullback, particularly in the red zone, so he's going to take a lot of hits. The one thing that I noticed yesterday, and I was impressed with this. This is a little thing because I pick him apart, is I thought yesterday he really consciously, and I'm sure it's coaching as well, consciously worked on in quick decisions early in the down, getting it out, and throwing the ball underneath. See, his issue, I always compare him to a basketball player. He can hit the three-pointer, he can hit the deep ball. He can slam dunk it, great runner, but he has no mid-range jump shot. Nothing between the numbers, intermediate. And I saw him complete some balls. One thing the offense did yesterday, pads were good to the offense. And Joe made a good point yesterday. I was with him. I do think that that actually no pads restrict the offensive lineman to some degree. Well, your defense is really aggressive, getting after air. But when I watched that, I just saw a little bit of a real intent to get in there between the numbers because you can't be a 40%, 47% passer and win in the NFL. And 8 touchdowns and 12 picks. You just can't do it. So, but that's the area of the game that we have to trust before Miami. Now, the problem, and you've heard me say this a million times, you really, of all the positions, you cannot really evaluate a quarterback till you're playing on Sunday's real games in the NFL, not preseason games. Now, the most important, you mentioned it earlier, most important 5 sessions to evaluate are the 2 joint practices and the 3 preseason games. So please play them in preseason. Play them.
All 3 games.
All 3. All 5 issues are more important than anything we're doing here. Because, my experience over the years, and there's 5 decades of it, is one day the offense is up, one day the defense is up. It goes like that in practice, and it wears as you go.
So let me ask you this. I know that you're trying to glean something from these practices.
Yeah.
So what do you lean on if it's not necessarily these big picture items that we talk about on radio shows every morning?
Well, I think what you're looking at is that day-to-day improvement. With Daniel, it's going to be tough because Daniel is kind of an understated player. He doesn't wow you with anything, not personality, not anything, but he does everything well and doesn't really give it away. But you're never going to walk out of there and go, wow, Richard's just the opposite now. There's wow plays. He took off on his own read the other day, he looked like a hurricane. I mean, he took off, but there's those inconsistencies in his play. So I think with Richardson, what you're going to be looking for is that day-to-day improvement on those things we talked about. Is he going to be able to get that? And at the end, it's going to be a gut decision because there's now going to be no clear-cut guy before we play Miami. What you're going to say is he improved enough to take 47% and make it 55? I'm not asking him. He ain't going to go 70, but can you take it from – and no turnovers. Matt and I talk about that all the time. Don't give it up.
Because that's what rose from year 1 and 2.
Yeah, don't give it up. If your percentage can just go to 55, I'm not asking 60. If he can go to 55, but you don't turn it over, then you say, now with his other superior athleticism, his ability to hit a home run running or throwing deep, that's different. And he did throw. I thought yesterday, I walked out of there and said, he has a chance to get that.
So to me, here's the question with Anthony Richardson. We know that he had a limited amount of experience in college.
Yeah.
He's had a limited amount of experience in the NFL. He's still young. How much better can he get? Because you talked a minute ago about you see them both on tape, and it kind of is what it is. But he's so young and relatively inexperienced. How much better can he get? How much more comfortable can he get in the NFL?
I think that's almost impossible to project. He has tremendous skill. So on one hand, you say there's a high ceiling. And the one thing I'll say for Anthony, despite all the bad numbers, he really has a good delivery. He does not have throwing mechanics problems. I mean, so you would say, well, he's going to be just fine because he really, like sometimes you get a kid that throws like a baseball or sidearm. He really has good throwing mechanics, gets rid of it. So the 2 things that you have to see and this is the thing that I can't determine. Now, some of my buddies, top names in coaching, believe it can be done, some can't. And this was the knock on him if there was a knock by coaches coming out. Can he learn how to anticipate? I always say on Saturday, you throw to open receivers. On Sundays, you throw receivers open. You throw where they're not. And he has really struggled with that. He has not been decisive. And he ends up holding the ball, and sometimes
is that an instinct though? Can that be taught?
Well, I don't know. See, I don't know. Like, John Gruden, for instance, who's a good friend of mine, thinks he could bring him along with certain kinds of things. Other guys say really questionable on his anticipation because it's got to be pinpoint accuracy. That's why when and you have to do it when you have a daily plug or you have a daily. You take stats. But really, they're meaningless, okay? Because a completion to a running back that is caught, but the ball is here on the back hip, is really not good enough. The ball has to be. This is the difference in what I call pinpoint Sunday accuracy. It's got to be right here,
in stride.
Right in
He's
stride.
moving in the right direction.
If you not no disrespect to Jonathan, you make him adjust those shoulders.
Yeah,
now the ball's in the area. That's Saturday accuracy. Same way downfield, and then there's the touch part of it, that part of it. But again, I heard you guys earlier. He didn't hit any roosters yesterday, so that's a plus.
Are you going to use that or the hog molly?
No. The hog molly. He gave me two
He's
things.
got a new one now.
I will have to give him credit on it, but I will use it. I guarantee you, I will use both of them.
Well, let's go over to, I guess, a couple of hog mollies. They are a little bigger on the defensive line, but let's go over to that side of the ball because I think you and Mashiri might have had a party when the defensive scheme changed here in Indianapolis. Just that unit overall. I mean, the playmaking, the disruption from the secondary has been noticeable, but what are your thoughts a handful of days in?
I think one of the big, this was a pretty solid offseason for the Colts. I mean, they weren't loud, but they made a lot of good moves. It started with Lou Anarumo. I mean, you couldn't, for the past 6 years, we've played remedial coverages, period. And I've said it while it's happening. This is not me saying it afterwards. They've been remedial. They've been soft zones, area zones. I call them high school zones. So our quarterbacks would look good out here. They'd come out and throw 70% like Heineke does and everybody else, not just Stafford, that we played against. So now you bring in a guy who really is NFL. This is what I grew up. This is the NFL I grew up with, the Bud Carsons and these type Belichick's and Saban. He is going to be much more sophisticated. You can see it in the back end, and much more aggressive with the press coverage and combinations underneath. And so all of a sudden, I think our defense hit our offense with a ton of bricks. Plus, you bring in Ward, who is an elite corner. He's not a good corner. He's an elite corner. You got Kenny, who's a very top-tier nickel. And now you got all these good kids battling for number 3, whether it's Wally or it's bringing the best out of Jones. I mean, these guys. So all of a sudden you have the talent to match him in the back end. Like I said, I think it hit our receivers and quarterbacks like a ton of bricks when we were in gym class. Now, yesterday, the approach was different in that a lot of the quarterbacks looked better, but a lot of the completions were inside the numbers. They were either inside or they were inside out on the corner routes. And both guys threw good 7 routes on those corners inside out. But all of a sudden that was into Warren. It's into Downs, And I think part of the percentage problems was our receivers got a rude awakening. And they may not be as great as everybody thinks. Now, Pierce, the 3 guys that have just stood out to me on another level has been Ward, just on another level. Warren, even though he's a rookie, and Pierce. I mean, those 3 guys have just, Pierce was obviously not there yesterday. But, I mean, they stuffed our outside receivers. So the offensive approach got a lot better yesterday because we were really working inside, both inward and outside. And that's the part of Anthony that I liked yesterday. Now, I don't know if he can sustain that. That'll be a key.
So I do want to go here. I was sitting next to you the other day, and they were playing some rap music, which is, I think, more my style.
That made you think of Rick right there, didn't it?
And Rick goes, "This music stinks." So,
now,
Coach, I have to ask, what would be on your ideal playlist?
Crowd
this time
noise.
Of year?
Play crowd noise. Make it realistic. If you want my playlist, it's Mick Jagger and the Stones.
Okay.
It's I go back to Buddy Holly.
Here comes
if you want to go to the 50s,
I see Steppenwolf with you riding down the highway.
There you go. And my kids were in the MTV generation. I love Dire Straits and Clapton and Springsteen and those guys. But I like music I can actually don't have to have it translated to me.
Definitely not the edited version we get here at Colts Training Camp. Rick Venturi with us here, the coach. You mentioned the wideouts. Let's stick there for just a second. The A.D. Mitchell camp so far.
Well, to me, he is the biggest enigma because he has the innate talent. He is the best separator. He and Downs are the 2 best separators that we have. I mean, he can separate from anybody. You saw it. He separated yesterday from Ward. First time that really happened. But I don't know what his temperament is, and will he ever just make layups? There's drop balls, even, kind of carry over from last year. Now, it wasn't there in minicamp, but he's had some here. But, I mean, if you have Pierce with all that speed and the improvement that he'd make, and you would have Mitchell on the other side with all that speed and that, that separation, now Downs and Warren and Taylor, but we have to establish where they can move those safeties, split them, and get them out. Because if you're running the ball good with Jonathan and you're throwing everything inside, I can defend that because I'll put 9 in between the numbers and make you throw outside.
Right. Prove it to me, right?
Now, prove it to me. Now, Pierce has come a mile. He might be, in my career, a guy that I've seen show as much improvement as I've ever seen. I mean, he started out just as a one-trick pony, vertical, get on top of you, and go. And then last year, he really developed the 50-50 ball. And you saw it from the beginning of training camp, carried it all the way through. People think, well, training camp doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I mean, you can see things that stay there. But now I think he's developed even more as a route runner. He was very vertical but choppy, and I see him much smoother, like they've hit him coming across a couple times. But again, you end up having to have that. I mean, the Eagles, and we're a little bit like Eagles, if you say that Hurts is the same type of quarterback type. Now, Hurts is, really learned, and Hurts is very instinctive and has great leadership.
He had command of that offense.
He does.
Last year,
No, he really does.
Earlier.
But they made the gigantic step when they traded for A.J. Brown. Okay.
Good
now,
point.
No doubt about it. When they brought in Barkley, that was like the icing on the cake. But they had a good running game regardless, including Hurts. But when they brought in A.J. Brown to go with Smitty, now you stack it inside. I remember Matt and I were sitting on the sidelines. We go to Philadelphia 2 years ago, and we're in there working against top, and we're playing our ass off. I mean, we're playing like the first 15 minutes, and then in the next 5 plays, it's like 3 bombs. It's like it's like 21 points, and just to those guys on the outside. And that's why that matters so much to us, because with our offensive line, we're going to be able to run it. And between Downs and Warren, I mean, you really have 2 good inside receivers. I mean, seriously. So what you don't want to let them do is pack it in, both run and inside passing game.
Go ahead.
Well, I just want to throw in this. It's hypothetical, and I don't know, maybe we're 6 months, maybe a little longer away from it being a real conversation. But based off what you just said there, Coach, Alec Pierce contract year. I think Michael Pittman Jr. deep down thinks it's a contract year for him. He wants a 3rd contract. Well, you rather have Pierce, you rather have Pittman for the next 4 years.
Well, don't get me wrong, and I'm going to get a lot of brushback on this. I really like Michael Pittman. I think he does a lot of dirty work for us. He's been a really good player. He'll block. He'll high-volume catch, but he's scheme-dependent. Okay, he's scheme-dependent. He's 82nd in the league in yards per catch and in the 90s in scoring. Okay, so on the other hand, you have the leading receiver, deep ball guy at 22-3 in the league in Pierce, who's going like this. So to me, I see Pierce as a game changer. Okay?
Is he the wide receiver 1 right now?
To me, he is.
Yeah.
Now I look at it from a defensive coordinator prism. I mean, if I'm looking at
who
the
really
Colts,
fears you?
Yeah, I got to stop Taylor. Okay, and I got to stop Pierce on the big play. Okay, now with Warren coming in and Downs inside, I situationally will play them. I'll play the hell out of Downs on 3rd and 5. I'll make sure I don't get a mismatch. But I'm not going to let Pierce beat me deep or Taylor wear me out. I'm just not. Okay. And enough said.
Yeah.
So I think it's really important. That's why I'm thrilled to death that we signed Ryman. If you're going to – you have to sign not only good players, you have to sign players – that impact the game, that are in critical positions, like left tackle. Left tackle is, one of the top 3 positions on the offensive team. So you can't let that guy out of the building. You can't.
Last one before we let you go. For those who might have joined late, can you remind us of how many years you've been doing this and what keeps it fun, Coach, after all these years? Because I joke with you, whenever I see you, I don't see Coach when football isn't really around. But once the pads get on and we get through the combine and a couple of guys start running around the field, he's coming around the corner, looking So what keeps the fun after all this time?
Well, you're right. We just had a week of gym class. Actually, for me, we had a first football practice yesterday. So, I love this game. As you said, 43 years of covering it or coaching it. 1 year in the CFL, 44. I grew up in the game. I mean, it's what I do. I never grew up with hobbies. My motorcycle is my only passion to get away from things. Never golf, never tennis, never anything. Just, my dad, as you probably know, was a Hall of Fame high school coach in Illinois, one of the best ever. My brother's in the Hall of Fame in Illinois, to father-son company. So when I'm 5 years old, I'm studying the split T. I know this sounds like hyperbole, but my father would have me come out and give a clinic to the quarterbacks, because I grew up in it. This was our world. My dad coached his high school team like you would coach the Colts or the Packers. I mean, it was life and death for us. A loss on Friday night was a tragedy.
It's a long week is what that was.
And the other thing then, I loved my father. The one thing I'll always credit him, he was a great X and O coach, and he would go anywhere. If the Veer was popular, the Houston Veer, he'd go to Houston. High school coach. Bring my mother would read books in the hotel. He'd go to Texas to get the wishbone. He was curious.
Gosh, I love that.
I inherited totally that. I mean, I love the science of the game. I live for it. I mean, if I wasn't paid to do it, I would do it. I mean, I just, it's like I said. And Sherry always laughs at me. I said, you don't get sick, you don't die, you don't get married, you don't have a wedding, you don't do any of these things from July until.
That's how it works
in the Venturi family.
That's how it works.
Don't.
You might drop that on Maddie tonight.
Good luck with that.
You don't do it. Because football is life in my. I just grew up that way, and so you can tell. I absolutely love it. I mean, I really do.
It's the best. It's why we love you. Hey, one other thing that I think is important to talk about before we let you go too. This is also your first camp here without Jim Irsay.
Yeah.
I don't care what anybody says. If you've been around this program, this organization, I've been around it for about 12 years now, for the most part. You can't help but feel it, right?
Well, let me say this. Jim and I, we go back 43 years. And Jim was a 22-year-old son just getting his first, just being in camp for the first time. And I was a rookie coach in the NFL. And so we've had a good relationship for 43 years. I mean, we went through the move together. When I became the head coach for Ron Meyer, he was by then the GM. So we had a relationship where we met around the clock. We had a relationship where I got fired here. But Jim didn't want to do it. They did, and they got me. But I have it on my desk at home. Jim he called me in after it was all done, and he gave me a horseshoe. And he gave me a little horseshoe, and he said, you'll be horseshoe forever. So I went on to Cleveland and New Orleans and, 25 years later. And I come back, and Jim gives me this second act, to be able to do this with Matt and so forth. And so, like I always said, the league lost a good owner, great owner. The girls lost a great father, and I lost a really good friend. I will say this. Because Jim's really been afflicted the last couple years, the girls have really had an opportunity to adapt. And I'm very, and this is not a company line, you guys know me better than this, I've been very impressed with Carly. I mean, it's been seamless. I really like, I want pressure on this team. I'm not one of those kumbaya guys. And I really liked that the first thing she said in her first press conference is I think these guys, the trio, Chris, Steichen, and the quarterback have talent, but this isn't good enough. She repeated her father's words from after the season, and then she said, we have to get back to that Colts stat. It was Manning through luck, where division championships were normal. They were accepted. And, and I've talked to a lot of people that were here before that have no skin in the game. And they've told me that her study of the game is unbelievable, and that, her headset is not earrings. She knows what she's doing. And her dad, despite his, what you would say demons, he was a great football guy. I mean, his strength was he really knew the game, and yet he was smart enough when he became the full-time owner to hire Polian, and all guys and let them do their job for the most part. That was interrupted a couple years ago, but overall, and Carly, I think she's going to do that. I always say people say, well, how important it is for an owner to know football, and most of them don't. Most of them don't. I mean, I worked for 6 different owners, okay, and of the 6 owners I worked for, what copy of the tape of the game do you think they wanted? Okay, 5 out of the 6 wanted the TV copy because they wanted to be nursed through the game. They wanted the commentators to tell them what happened in the game. The only guy that wasn't, Jim Irsay.
And he wanted the all 22.
That's right. He wanted the all 22. And I see Carly, the same way. So I think it's going to be a seamless. She's going to be here every day. You can see her presence, and so. And this is a huge year. You said it before. You got to play this year like it's everything. The Miami Dolphin game, that's why this decision, who do you trust to beat the Dolphins, is everything at quarterback. Because you have to. I don't mind throwing down a gammon. You have to beat the Dolphins here in Indianapolis. You cannot get off to another bad start against a team that you're better than. The next week, I'm not buying into the total hype of Denver, but they're pretty solid with a great coach. And that's a little, that's going to be a competitive. I mean, we could have run them off the field last year, and we dropped the ball walking in for the end zone, have a touchdown, interception.
Change the course of both seasons.
Two punch returns. Change the season. And if JT scores there, we run him we send him back to the mountains. But Miami now, I've watched tape on both teams. I've studied the hell out of them. And they're better with Tua. There's no question about that. They're a better team with Tua. But you have to win that opener. So your quarterback decision to me is who do I trust to win that game?
We'll keep an eye on it. Thanks for stopping by. As always, we appreciate it.
Coach, thank you, sir. Hope the knee's okay. Best of Miss Sherry and you.
Talk
and
to you
as
soon.
always, thank you.
There is the one, the only, Rick Venturi. Coming up in a moment, we'll get to the check down. But in the meantime, Mark Dykton, I believe we have a 4-pack of Indy 11 tickets to give away to this weekend's game to the Tampa Bay Rowdies. Do we not?
You got 2 4-packs.
Well, let's give away one right now.
Okay.
How about
Sounds
that?
good. Fast Fingers, is that what we're doing?
Yeah, we'll do Fast Fingers, and that game is Saturday night, correct?
Yes, sir.
Friday night or Saturday night? All right, Saturday night. Family 4-pack. Get it now, 239-1070. We'll get the check down coming up in a moment. We'll also, if you're on the way out here, get you ready to go for a full pads practice for the Indianapolis Colts. It starts at 10 o'clock, right when we get off the air. I know it's big time because Matt Taylor's here now. That's how I know it's a big time. We'll do it all next to 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Morning Checkdown on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Good morning. It's a Tuesday. Getting ready for another full pads day at the Indianapolis Colts training facility in Grand Park. That will get underway at about 10 o'clock. It is hot. It is humid. And they'll try to follow up James Boyd on a pretty good day yesterday for the quarterbacks.
Yes, I thought it was a solid day for them. Both quarterbacks, I thought, had their best days individually throughout camp, and that was a positive sign. It was their first padded practice, second padded practice coming up here in about 30 minutes, and this will be an hour and a half, the longest practice so far throughout training camp. Kevin
Bowen, the Colts, and left tackle Bernhard Raimann have agreed to a 4-year, $100 million extension. They made it official this morning. What's this mean for the offensive line moving forward?
Yeah, I think a very, very smart decision by Chris Ballard. I think unquestionably one of, if not the best Ballard draft picks. You don't find bookend left tackles in the middle of round 3, and Ballard did back in 2022. And, again, I said earlier, I don't care who your GM is next year. I don't care who your head coach is next year. I don't care who your quarterback is next year. You need Bernhard Raimann out there at left tackle. So made total sense to me. So a shout out to Jake Query for getting the 1% on that new contract.
We're giving Jake that 1%, right?
We are giving Jake that 1%, and if we don't, I know Jake Query will give himself that 1%.
All right. So today's practice will happen at 10 o'clock, and then they'll have a day off, James Boyd, and then an evening practice on Thursday, and we're hearing that they may ship in some temporary lighting for that one.
Well, they'll have to. It gets pretty dark out here at night. I'm trying to think, Kevin, the last time I was out here when it was truly nighttime was probably when they had the trade request for Jonathan Taylor, the bus visit with Jim Irsay. Didn't leave till about midnight after all that news broke, and it was very, very dark out here. So curious to see the setup, but nevertheless, it should be a fun sort of game-like atmosphere.
I mean, I can't recall the last time they've practiced this late. I mean, it might have been the Anderson, honestly, the last time they practiced. I mean, literally, it's till 10 o'clock. They got fireworks afterwards, 10:05, fireworks show here up at Grand Park. So, situational scrimmage, I believe, is a plan for Thursday night. So for those coming out here, it is, I believe, that's one of those practices that does cost money, I think, for the 18 and older crowd out there. I think
so on that day, if you're 18, you're 17.
Yeah, that's James. You're going to pretend to be 16.
More Jeff and I that have to pay the $5.
No truth to the rumor. I get the senior citizen discount pretty soon here. No truth to the rumor, though, that the lights were going to be provided by the SUVs owned by Matt Taylor and Casey Valier, just putting them on.
I thought we were going to go iPhone lights,
Yeah,
flashlight it up here. Yeah,
I like that. All right. Also, tough news we've been talking about this morning as well. Hall of Famer, Chicago Cubs legendary second baseman Ryne Sandberg passing away at the age of 65. Truly helped to change and transform the way that second basemen were thought of. I remember watching him in the 80s almost every day with WGN, and no matter where you were in the country, you could watch those games. But he was one of the first second basemen that brought power into the equation when he was at the plate.
And just a Cubs lifer. And frankly, I think that's what endears so many fans to particular athletes when you do spend the vast majority, if not all of your career with one franchise. And he did it not when they were winning at their highest level. So, Mark, I'll let you chime in because I think you can speak a little bit more on, obviously he was one of the athletes I remembered early on. And, kind of when I picture the Cubs, I think of Ryne Sandberg. So rest in peace to Rhino.
Yeah, cancer sucks. And like I said, when you become a Cubs fan, you are told Ernie Banks, Ryne Sandberg, and Ron Santo, all three of those guys, unfortunately not still with us. But Ryne Sandberg, a quiet superstar. Like no one – you'd almost say he was kind of a boring personality, but he was so fun to watch in the field and play every single day, and he just seems like a genuine love of the game for baseball and wanted to teach it. He was a manager for a little bit in the league as well, and then even at this past year's Cubs convention, getting autographs from Pete Crow Armstrong and everything like that. So a true fan of baseball at heart, and it sucks because 65, way too young for anybody, and cancer still sucks.
Rest easy, Ryne Sandberg. On the field yesterday, the Cubs took it on the chin. They played in Milwaukee, 8-4 the final scores. The Brewers get the win there. The Dodgers over the Reds by a score of 5-2, and the Cardinals got a 7-1 victory over the Miami Marlins yesterday. No fever game last night. They'll be back on the floor tomorrow night at home against the Phoenix Mercury, a pretty good basketball team, and the return of, quote, fever legend, unquote, coming up tomorrow night, Kevin.
Well, yes, it was fun while it lasted.
Dwana Bonner would be her name. Yes, she is back in the building coming up here Tomorrow night, I expect the Boo Birds to be heard from Westfield, from Fever Nation.
James Boyd, you'll be out at that one, right?
No, I actually will not be. I am not doing any Fever games at the moment. Got to lock in for training camp.
All right, sounds good. Anything else you guys want to throw in before we head to break here?
Yeah, shout out to Tyrese Halliburton. Congrats on his engagement to his longtime girlfriend, Jade. Looked like a very nice proposal and I guess overall party in Ames, Iowa. Close to both of those two, of course, in their collegiate days. I was a little nervous when he tried to get up off the knee there, and man, that boot had me a little nerve-wracking. But shout out to Tyrese Halliburton. Boy, what a whirlwind of a month plus that man has had. And I am heading up to I-65 here after the show to watch one Charles Woods play golf. That would be Charlie Woods, 12:51 tee time at Ackerman Allen Golf Course there in West Lafayette.
Is he 15 or 16 now?
I'm here to watch Charlie Woods.
Yeah. I'll throw in real quick that Will Levis posted a picture of his
I think Jeff believed me, by the way, that I was going. Can you imagine if I said no to Colts training camp to go watch a 15-year-old play golf?
I would not put that past you.
Yeah, you'd have to call the Westfield PD on me for that.
So, they certainly would. I'd not doubt you for a second there, Kevin. But Will Levis posted a picture of his shoulder yesterday.
That looked weird.
Mentioned that he's going to have the season-ending surgery. He's going to miss the entire year. His AC joint was all messed up from what I could tell, and it really had this weird bump on it. So it was kind of surprising to me, Kevin, that he was even trying to consider playing with that. So hopefully he has a full recovery after the procedure.
He's another guy, when I watched him last year, he's a tough guy, obviously. He's very muscular. And I think he's realizing that there are bigger, faster, stronger guys in the NFL. And if you try to go
so damn
head to head, it's like, man, you're going to get hurt.
Yeah, he puts his body. You know, I've talked about this before. I think Richardson actually is a much, for the most part, much safer runner than Levis.
Yeah.
Which I know might surprise some people, but like you watch Levis run,
he looked like a fullback.
Man, it's unbelievable. Yeah, it's like, dude, you're not Mike Allstott out there. So, yeah, Cam Ward and I forget who their backups are. Maybe Brandon Allen. And again, the Colts play Titans week 3 and I think week 8. I want to say it's both early in the season. So you would think no matter what happens, they will still have the rookie, the number 1 overall pick, Cam Ward, in the lineup for those games.
All right, Mark Duckton, we have a winner with our family 4-pack for the Indy 11.
Shout out to Erin. Was very excited to get the tickets, so she's going with the family on Saturday.
All right, so excited for that. Let's do it one more time. 239-1070, the number to call. You want to go see the Tampa Bay Rowdies and the Indy 11 play on Saturday, and you're looking for something to do with your family? We got a 4-pack waiting for you. James, I'm going to make Mark work a little bit today. He's giving us such grief. I'm going to make caller 4. How about that?
It's not going to do well for me pulling
no
sound
opinion.
for you, Jeff.
I was going to say,
man,
tread lightly.
I feel threatened right there. All right, to 239-1070, number to call. We will wrap it up strong and take a look at the curious case of something strange in training camp for the Raiders. Hard to believe there. We'll do it next at 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
I'm ready for a big one.
You're listening to the Fan Morning Show on Sports Radio 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Now I know what James Boyd to be blasting out here at the speakers for practice today. You got that head bob moving right there. You're good to go.
Yeah, Mark's got the good tunes, man.
I like it.
We might need a little young jock. See if Jeff can.
0% chance. 0% chance he knows what that is.
What do you mean?
I'm not sure I
think
do.
Jeff's got some rhythm. He was in the French clubs for the past 2 weeks.
My wife does not want anyone to see that publicly. That's one of those things right there. You know what? Does anybody lead the league year to year, decade to decade in weirdness more than the Raiders? Like, honestly. It's got to be – there's always something bizarre.
So what happened here? Christian
man.
Wilkins kissed his teammate on the head or something?
Yeah, so it's coming out today that Christian Wilkins, who was recently released by the Raiders, was turned into HR by one of his teammates for – he says he was just like playing around in the locker room, was going to kiss the top of his head. And this really offended that other player, and he went to HR and complained about it, and that was like a cherry on top of all the other issues that were going on between the Raiders and him.
I wish the story would have a 180 and say he did it Joe Namath style. Mark, do we have that audio?
Yeah, give me a second.
Oh, man. So while he's doing that, Christian Wilkins, released by the Raiders on Thursday, apparently kissed a fellow player on the head, and the teammate took offense to it. Adam Schefter reporting that. The incident was not the sole reason Wilkins was cut, but he's been recovering from a Jones fracture, which he suffered to his left foot last October. But because of how Wilkins has treated the rehab from his injury, the Raiders voided the remaining $35.2 million of guaranteed money left on his contract June 4th. But he had a teammate that went to HR and reported him, according to Adam Schefter. I'm sure it's happened before. Probably doesn't get publicity. But you don't think about, like, locker room shenanigans, somebody reporting somebody to HR.
I want to kiss you. I couldn't care less about the team struggling. I want to kiss you.
Thanks, Joe. I'll take it as a huge compliment.
I feel like the Colts have played the Raiders in like 13 straight years. Don't they play again this year? Colts Raiders?
Yes, they do. At home, October 5th.
Yeah, they play the whole AFC West this year. I feel like, gosh, for 7 of 8, says Casey Valiant. Incredible. Colts Raiders are rivalry.
That's usually because you're in that same, however you finished the year before, you're kind of in that same range of how they
this year you play the entire division.
Yeah.
But, yeah, as Jeff points out, you do align if you finish, second or third in the division, then you play the team that also finished second or third in the other divisions there. But I know we had Coach Venturi on earlier. That'll be up on the podcast if you missed it. You guys have heard me. I've probably been a broken record since the schedule came out in May. I just think Miami, Denver out of the gate are absolutely massive games. And I don't even factor in you haven't won a season opener since 2013. Ironically enough, that was also against the Raiders. I just think those are two teams that if you project the AFC out, they could be right there in the wild card picture, just like they were with you last year.
Yeah.
So, man, I thought Coach made a good point, though. He kind of spun in the direction of just how big that starting quarterback job is, James, because, obviously whoever you name as a starter will certainly start week 1 and 2. And those games to me, if I were ranking like important games on the schedule outside of Houston, I might have Miami and Denver right there as 3 and 4. Like Houston's probably 1-2.
Okay.
And I don't know, maybe I should throw in the divisional games a little bit higher on that list. But, man, I just think those are big ones out of the gate.
Here's the thing. Dolphins, Broncos, and Colts, those 3 teams were kind of jockeying for final playoff position in the AFC last year. Remember that?
So as part of – yes, I do remember that. And, honestly, we were all kind of sitting around waiting to see how it all shook out. But, Kevin, is part of that just because of you not getting off to great starts in the past, or just are you looking at singularly for this season in particular?
Singular for the opponent and what the end of the season standings could look like.
Good point.
Yeah, I mean, it's just – yes, I mean, I understand the week 1 drought, but – when you look at the
because I lean a little bit towards that myself. Just because, if you want it to feel different, you got to do something different.
Yeah, but again, when you look at the AFC as a whole and you continue to expect it to be Buffalo, and then you expect it to be maybe Baltimore, and then you expect it to be Houston, and then you expect it to be Kansas City, that slots teams like Miami and Denver and Indianapolis into the wild card picture. Well, when you only see these teams once a year and you get them in your own building, that's where those games take on more onus for me. And again, you didn't see Tua last year. That was the old, Tim Tad Boyle and Snoop Huntley in that game. So I assume Tua will be healthy for week 1. And You look at right now any head coaching list of most likely to be fired or first coach to be fired, you don't go very far down that list before you see the names Mike McDaniel and Shane Steichen.
Yeah.
So, you throw a little bit of smoke there, too.
Well, if you want to expand it, too, week 3 is your first divisional opponent against Tennessee, and you're not quite sure what their quarterback situation by then is going to be.
Oh, it's got to be Cam Moore.
Well, yeah, it's got to be Cam Moore, but we don't know how he's going to come out of the gate is my point. Those first 3 weeks, that can be everything for the Colts right there.
James, what do you want to say? Should be day 2 here in full pads is the expectations. I guess I could just turn around and look. But, yeah, 90 minutes today. A little bit of the longer sessions that we've had here at Colts training camp.
Yeah, I do want to see just
Indeed, full pads, by the way.
Building on the offensive success from yesterday, particularly when it comes to Anthony Richardson. That's been a knock on his career, is that he really hasn't had the game-to-game success. And I get these aren't games, but can you build on your performance from yesterday along with Daniel Jones as well, who had a great performance. But also, I wonder if, given the success the offense had yesterday, knowing Lou, he's known for being a chameleon, will he make it more difficult for that offense today?
I was trying to think in my mind if you added up all the Richardson practices we've watched, so whatever. 50 at this point, I guess, when you think back to spring, training camp. I don't think he's ever had a day like yesterday where the ball literally did not hit the ground in 7-on-7 or 11-on-11.
Mm-hmm.
Keep it going.
Was that Haley's Comet? Or was that a guy that has had a healthy offseason and, knocked up a little bit of rust? What is it? He's got the opportunity to try and rewrite some of that. But, yeah, consistency, stringing days together. No one's going to remember July 28th when, September 28th rolls around. So.
I know, but I'm going to remember it today. That's for sure.
And like I said,
we got to talk in the present.
If you're coming out here and you're watching them and evaluating them for yourself, keep in mind what Rick Venturi was saying, too. Sometimes 11 of 11 is great. You always like that. But are the receivers helping the quarterback out quite a bit, right? Are they reaching back around and catching this one or reaching up and making a great one-handed grab? Are they Sunday throws or are they Saturday throws is what we talked about.
I want to expand on this tomorrow, but, and again, I don't want to put words into Rick's mouth, but, I guess I'm paraphrasing a little bit of what he said. But, if that decision at the end of the year is a little bit of, hey, is it Alec Pierce or is it Michael Pittman Jr. moving forward, he's leaning to number 14.
That's what it sounded like.
So
he didn't say that, but it's kind of what it sounded like.
He pretty much went there with that. So, again, not a debate maybe necessarily we need to have right here, right now, but something to keep an eye on as the season moves along. Because, James, I'd like to see a little bit more from Michael Pittman Jr. than we've seen so far in camp.
Absolutely, and he would like to see a little bit more from himself if he wants that next payday, because we do know after this year there is no more guaranteed money left on his deal, which is twofold. It means you can re-up and get a new contract, or it means they can cut you and move on with no other ties.
Well, lots of things to think about as you're watching the guys go through their steps a little bit later on today. Again, they'll be starting at 10 o'clock today. They should finish up around 11:30. They have tomorrow off, right, Kevin? Before coming back
tomorrow's
for an evening game
so to map out the rest of the week here at Grand Park. Again, today is the final morning weekday practice of camp. Off day tomorrow, night practice 8 to 10 on Thursday. I think that is $5 for those 18 and older. And that is also the same price for the weekend sessions. The weekend practices are both at 10 a.m. Saturday and Sunday. And then they're in Baltimore all next week. So they are in Baltimore Monday through Friday, really, a joint practice Tuesday, a preseason game a week from Thursday. But, yeah, that's mapping out the next 2 weeks here at Grand Park for the Colts.
You got a training camp beard going on right now? Is that what's going on?
Yeah, I usually shave once a week, and I think I'm probably going about 10 or 12 days. But there's a lot of white hair starting to show up in the beard.
Speaking of which, I see a singular white hair showing up in your beard over there.
I've got a couple of.
Am I rubbing off on you, brother?
Nah, I've had a couple gray hairs for the last couple of years now.
Well, that's what happens when you have 2 straight weeks of just me and you. And, Jeff's halfway across the pond.
I thought it was just radio is what happened to him. Everything was good until he started doing the show, and now all of a sudden –
I have no worries about it. My dad still has a full head of hair. It's just grayed out. So hopefully one day I can become like the silver fox like him.
All right, last thing, Mark Dykton, do we have a winner for our second family 4-pack for the Indy 11?
Tomas. Shout out to him. He's very excited as well to get the tickets.
All right, and we'll have 4-packs throughout the rest of the week as well. So stay tuned for that. We got you covered there. No Fever game tonight, but they'll be back in action tomorrow night at home against the Phoenix Mercury, and we'll get you ready to go for that one tomorrow as well.
Do want to say thank you to JT Tuimoloau. He was with us earlier. A lot of patience for him yesterday and us recording that interview. Seems like a great dude, and that will also be on the podcast with Rick Venturi.
A lot of fun. Like another guy that's going to be easy to root for. All right, that's going to wrap it up for us from Grand Park today. Have fun. For James Boyd, Kevin Bowen, Mark Dykton, I'm Jeff Rickard. Jake Query at noon, JMV at 3.